ABC Sport Digital Radio, your home of NRL.
Hello, I'm Ned Hall, and now we're going back to 1993 to hear some of the Test match series between Australia and a very strong West Indian side, headlined by Brian Lara. The third Test match was played in Sydney. Some notable landmarks through the match, some incredible batting by the West Indian maestro. We'll go straight out for the result of the toss and interviews with the two captains, Alan Border and Richie Richardson, conducted by ABC Grandstand's Mike McCann.
Yes, it looks like a very good track and it's a nice day, so all the ingredients there for a big score.
And you've got the two spinners?
Yes, unfortunately Michael Whitney misses out, but just the way this wicket generally plays, prefer to go with the extra spinner.
A few runs there early?
Well, I hope so. We'll soon find out, but it looks a pretty good track, so hopefully there's plenty of runs there for everyone.
Thanks, Alan. Hope 93 starts well for you.
Thank you very much.
Richie Richardson, you've called badly. Third time running, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I don't think the toss should decide who wins the Test match. It's how well you go out and play.
What do you think of the pitch?
Well, it looks very good for a one-day match. I don't think it's going to last very long. It's flat, it's very dry, and there's some loose soil there. So I believe it's going to start to turn very early. But what is important is that we go out there and we bat positively and get some big scores.
And you've made the one change. Yesterday you indicated perhaps David Williams might keep his spot, but he's missed out.
Well, yeah, these things happen. He's struggling a little bit with his confidence, so I thought that we'll give Junior Murray a try.
Thanks, Richie. All the best.
West Indies in the field. Australia 42 without loss, with Boone 16, Taylor 20. I think on the last two occasions there, I'll ask Laura Curtin to help me. Australia were bowled out rather cheaply in the last maybe two Test matches they'd played here. Certainly, I think against India. India got a big first innings score, and Australia had to bat to save the game. Bishop runs away from us. Good rhythm. Bowls to Taylor. Taylor is beaten outside the off them. He's caught by Murray, and Australia have lost their first wicket, 42 for 1. Looking to square drive. The ball was well up, took the edge. Murray took it well, and up goes the West Indians. And just about when the body language was beginning to suggest that they were getting their heads down, maybe the wicket too much in their mind, they have struck as we welcome Jeff Lawson for the first time this morning.
Yes, well, good morning, Reds, and good afternoon now on the East Coast. And just as I sit down, Mark Taylor goes after a very full ball, and we haven't seen the bowlers really pitch up to the bat so much this morning, but that was very quick delivery from Ian Bishop, right up around the off stump, and Mark Taylor tried to hit it away, and he looked very unbalanced as he tried to hit it. Didn't really get the front foot across to it. The front foot came out, he opened up a bit, and he tried to really smash it away through the covers, but it went away a little bit off the seam. And Junior Murray takes his first catch in Test cricket, so the Australian vice-captain departs. And the West Indies had the breakthrough. They've trawled very hard this morning to get it, and finally it comes after, we had 62 minutes of play as Steve Waugh, another local, comes to the wicket.
Boone had a sharp chance when he was dropped. Difficult chance, low by Richardson, diving forward, seemed to get both hands to the ball, but it wasn't an easy catch. Hooper is in, and again looking to undrive that one. Just tossed it a little in the air, and you can see the batsman forced to look up there, had to wait in it, and as the ball eventually pitched, just a little bit of Cooper going up there, and Boone just waited and pushed out in the onside. Again he's driving, and that's just to the right of Hooper. There'll be two here, but it wasn't a good shot. That's his 50th. Big hand for Davis Boone, 50, Waugh 48, Australia 1 for 120. And crowd responding. Well, he's really on a good run. Boone 48, 111, 46 and 11. Turns this, or attempts to turn it, and the ball takes the pad. Murray comes around, the ball is picked up by Adams. So 50 to Boone, 120 for 1, and Hooper has completed his 14th over. 14 overs, 4 maidens, none for 36. Boone 50, 173 minutes, 6 fours off 131 deliveries.
Adams bowls to Waugh. Waugh back, and he cuts well, firmly. In fact, he'll get a single with a misfield. Misfield by Logie, and Steve Waugh brings up his first half century in a Test match in 19 innings. Is this a return to form from Steve Waugh? Well, the crowd thinks so. They've enjoyed it.
One for 160. Waugh 54. Boone back on strike. Adams starts to come and then stops. Boone not quite ready. Now he comes and bowls, and Boone sweeps. It pops up in the air. Murray catches it. There's an appeal and he's out. So Jimmy Adams breaks through. Junior Murray has his second catch. And Boone is out for 76. Caught Murray, bowled Adams. Australia 2 for 160, and that wicket falling when least expected.
Well, David Boone departs with some great applause from the crowd here at the SCG, but he was very, very disappointed as he went to sweep it, just hit the back of the bat and popped up in the air. And David Boone doesn't play the sweep shot all that often. He likes to get back in front of his stumps and play a straight bat around the corner. As we hear the applause now, not only for David Boone leading, but also for Mark Waugh coming out to join his brother. So two of the home crowd favourites here. But David Boone, just not a sweeper. In fact, I think it hit his glove. Just looking at the replay, hit his glove. He could have just easily played it around the corner with a straight bat, which he has done so often on turning wickets, and he has done so often today even. He looked totally in control of the situation. Jimmy Adams bowled a nothing ball, pitched the outside leg stump, just asked to be turned around the corner, and David Boone went to sweep it, and perhaps it turned a fraction. In fact, it did, I think, turn a little bit of fraction, so he's done a bit by the spin.
It's 199 for 2 Australia after winning the toss. It's just the solitary slip. There's no gully. A delivery which is played just down to that short fine leg. That's a 200 for Australia. Boone 76. Taylor 20. Steve Waugh is 69. Mark Waugh 25. And Australia winning the toss on the opening day of this third test match here at the Sydney Cricket Ground in front of a very good crowd, with the clock showing just 21 minutes and a half past 4 o'clock in the last session. Well placed at 200 for 2.
84 to Steve Waugh, 47 to Mark Waugh, 2 for 238. And I can remember watching Courtney Walsh bowl overs at the rate of 7 minutes a time. He's getting back to that as he goes in and bowls to Mark Waugh outside the off stump, but he carves that out through cover point for 4 runs. A delightful shot right out of the meat of the bat, and that's a stylish way to bring up 50. Mark Waugh 51, Steve Waugh 84, Australia 2 for 242, and he brings up his half century with probably one of his better shots, if not his best.
Lovely shot by Mark Waugh, square cut, just given room by Courtney Walsh, backing away slightly, but only to give himself room to play the shot and punishing it through point. It really was a fine shot. He's played well too. He's been in control out there. He didn't just come in and collect 50 runs. He's gone on the attack, twice sweeping Carl Hooper over square leg off pretty straight deliveries, and I think that's what the Australians need if this series is to stay alive and be entertaining. They haven't just got to sit in the lead, they've got to attack and try and make it more.
When David Moore runs at the SCG, you seem to like it here, don't you?
Yeah, it goes okay. I think it's just there's a lot of history here, and I think everybody feels really comfortable. And I've just found over the years that really enjoy batting, and it's just the way it's gone.
Big crowd out there, great atmosphere today.
Yeah, I think the Sydney people really support us well, and we as a team feel very comfortable playing here, and today there's no exception.
I remember speaking to you a couple of seasons ago when you were out for 97 against England. You said, I suggested you must have been a little bit disappointed. You said, well, if I got 97 every time I went out to bat, I'd be pretty happy. I suppose much the same applies today, 76?
Yeah, a little bit. I was a bit annoyed today just for the way I got out. I came off the tail of the bat and just went straight up in the air. But, 76, and we'll just have to build on it in the second innings.
You'd be happy to finish your career with an average of 76, I suppose?
Oh, definitely. I don't think that's ever going to happen, but it's just a thing to keep compiling runs and try and get as many as you can all the time.
You're back to opening the innings this season after several years at number 3, where you look very comfortable, and I think most observers thought the selectors were reluctant to change you back to the top because you were doing so well at 3, but how's it all been for you?
Yeah, it's been going okay. You know, I've sort of settled into the role again, and you know, Mark and I are feeling quite comfortable batting together. So you know, we'll just have to wait and see what happens from here on in. But I think things are going quite well at the moment, and Stephen's settling into number 3 and doing the job very well for us.
What about that pitch out there? Is it a typical SCG pitch, or perhaps a little drier than you would have expected?
It probably hasn't got quite as much grass on as what it normally has, but no, it's playing quite well today, but I think inevitably it will turn.
Well, speaking of that, you faced Adams, who ended up getting your wicket, and also Carl Hooper. Was there much out there?
Not as yet. There's just an inkling of it and a hint of things to come, you know, so hopefully we can buy our spinners, and of course if the quicks can make inroads early, it'll make it just so much better.
David Boone doesn't smile too often. How come you keep smiling when you're telling me it's going to turn? It looks like you're licking your lips about the next few days for this match.
No, not really. You know, here we've always found, and you know, as a batter you find too, that it can assist the spinners, but you've got to bowl well. And if you know, you bowl well, quite often you get rewarded.
Okay, things are going pretty well so far for the Australians. What's a good total?
Well, I think we'll just try and get as many as we can here in our first innings, and try and create some pressure for the second dig.
You'd certainly be looking at 400, I suppose.
I would hope so, yeah. You know, touch wood, we'll get on with it. But Stephen and Mark are doing a great job at the moment, and we've just got to kick on.
Well done, all the best.
Cheers, thank you.
Ambrose bowls, back goes War. Mark War. A single that should be run out. He's run out by Miles. So they've had an aberration. Just a couple of times this afternoon you wondered if they're running between the wickets. And Mark War looked ahead of. Steve responded. He went through. And Mark War's been run out by half the length of the pitch. As the stumps were thrown down from mid-wicket, he's run out for 57. And it's 3 for 254. There was never a single in the stroke. And was it Haynes who came in and threw the stumps down? And Mark War out for 57.
Well, he was out by about 7 yards there. He tried to run to short mid-wicket. He thought he got the ball past short mid-wicket. Haynes picked it up one-handed, transferred to his right hand, threw the stumps down with Mark War 7 yards out. I mean, it was the most ludicrous dismissal you could ever wish to see in a test match. He'll be walking off, and that rope I was talking about earlier where you hang yourself, that'll be in use in about 3 minutes, because there was a test match 150, absolutely staring him in the face there, and he turned his back on it in a foolhardy way. That's the thing with Mark War. It's just that little thing that's stopping him becoming a really major test match cricketer. I'm talking about one of the great test match cricketers of the current era, because I don't think that happened very often to the highest class players. They wouldn't throw their hand away in an idiotic way like that, and to waste, particularly on a surface like this where really the other team is down and out. He's 57 not out. The Australians absolutely on top, and he's run himself out by 7 yards without any yes, no, sorry, just yes, oh dear.
Now Ambrose, new ball in hand, wicketless today, bowls to Martin and bowled him. Played on off the inside edge as he came forward defensively, and Martin is out for a duck. Australia 4 for 261. As with his first delivery with the new ball, Ambrose strikes.
And Damien Martin successful in Melbourne, but not here at the SCG today. He played forward to that ball, looked like he had it pretty well covered, bat and pad close together. It was a good length ball just around off stump, and looked around in dismay to see it cannon off the pads and onto the stumps. So vital breakthrough for the West Indies. Damien Martin on his way, and that'll bring perhaps a night watchman to the wicket. We've got 24 minutes before stumps here.
Now, before you see who the incoming batsman is, Henry, would you do it or not? I mean, I think we were unanimously critical of the Australians when they had that first innings lead in Melbourne, opting for the night watchman. He's appeared. You better be quick. It's Alan Border.
Yes, that's what I would have said, Tim, that Alan Border would have come in. And getting a warm reception from this crowd here at the SCG. Used to be his home ground when he was playing for New South Wales. And that was way back in about 1980. But Alan's never been one to really want a night watchman. He always likes to get out there himself. And even though the second new ball is now only 7 deliveries old, it's the Australian captain will come to the crease. He's got such good defensive technique. I don't think the new ball or the old ball makes a great deal of difference to him, particularly on a wicket like this where there's not a lot of pace and not a lot of bounce and not a lot of seam. It's not going sideways too much. I think Damien Martin was more done by a little bit of extra bounce then as it kicked up and hit him on the pad and struck the body and rolled onto the stumps. A little bit unfortunate. but the ball not doing too much sideways.
The West Indies continue the surge back into the game as Bishop bowls to War. He whips this away through mid-wicket. There's a couple for him here. Got one. Turning for the second now. And the second really is completely in the comfort zone as it's picked up by Courtney Walsh. So Steve Waugh, I'll get it right in a second. He goes to 97 and it's 4 for 267.
Good piece of bowling from Ian Bishop. He bowled Steve Waugh the short one previously. The over before he got 3 short ones.
This could well be his 100. He's got one. He's going back for the second. He should get the third here, which he does. And Steve Waugh richly deserves this 100. He's waited a long time for it. His last was against Sri Lanka in the 90-91 season. Before that, the triumphant tour of England in 89. And, of course, since then, a lot of worries for his career. And now a beautiful 100 at the MCG. 4 for 270, the Australians. Steve Waugh 100. And listen to the crowd. Standing ovation.
Yes, and that'll be a load off Steve Waugh's mind. What a great 100 at his home ground here at the SCG. And what a great way to bring it up with a lovely straight drive down past the stumps for 3. Magnificent innings. And finally gets the 3 figures against the West Indies after making 90 on 2 other occasions.
Alan Border starting this innings at 9-9-7-9. So perhaps sometime early in the morning. Here goes Ambrose. He bowls to Waugh, down leg side, and he's caught it backward square. He whipped that around the corner. He's turned it straight to Phil Simmons. And Waugh, after making 100, falls with what I thought was an attacking shot, but the field beautifully set. He hit that straight to the short backward square fieldsman. So Waugh is out, caught Simmons, bowled Ambrose 100. And now the West Indies continue this surge back into the game as Australia lose their 5th wicket. Australia now 5 for 267. 5 for 270 it is. 5 for 270. Steve Waugh out for 100. And Greg Matthews walks in. Well, listen to this hand. And I can tell you that in the midst of the triumph of walking off the Sydney cricket ground with 100 against his name, Steve Waugh looked less than happy.
I think he would have been far from happy with that. It wasn't a bad shot. It was a short of a length ball that the West Indies had been bowling to him around the hip region. He decided to be positive. He hit it very hard behind square leg, and Phil Simmons was only about 10 metres from the bat and took a very, very sharp chance. I think Steve Waugh was determined that he was going to go on with that innings and make it a big one. And he knows now that the West Indies are back, well, if not on top, but certainly on level terms with Australia. After Australia leading for 5.25 hours here today, that the West Indies have fought back, and despite making 100, that now he's let them back into it. You're right, Neville, he just didn't look happy as he walked out that gate.
Far from it. I think 2 paces from the pitch, he was thumping the bat into the pads.
The West Indies have come storming back with the second new ball to share the honours on the first day of the 3rd Test in Sydney. At stumps, Australia is 5 for 272. The not-out batsmen are Border and Matthews, neither of whom has scored. Shortly after 5 o'clock, Australia was 2 for 254 and looked capable of putting this match beyond the West Indies' reach by the second day. Then in the last hour, Mark Waugh ran himself out and Curtly Ambrose ripped out Martin for a duck. Then Steve Waugh immediately he'd completed his 100 to undo Australia's earlier good work. Border had won the toss and batted on a bare pitch with little life for the West Indies quicks, and his upper order did their job well. After Taylor was out for 20, Boone and Steve Waugh for 118, then the Waugh twins added 94. Boone looked set for another SCG 100 before falling, sweeping at Adams for 76. And Mark Waugh likewise appeared century-bound, but ran himself out with a bad error of judgment. Steve Waugh's was the innings of the day, and one to establish his Test career, but even he was guilty of losing his wicket when there was still more work to be done. The day's details: out for Australia, Taylor caught Murray, bowled Bishop 20, Boone caught Murray, bowled Adams 76, Mark Waugh run out 57, Martin bowled Ambrose for a duck, Steve Waugh caught Simmons, bowled Ambrose 100. 19 extras, Border not out, no score, Matthews not out, no score, 5 for 272. Ambrose 20 overs, 6 maidens, 2 for 37. Bishop 20 overs, 4 maidens, 1 for 56.
Walsh, 16 overs, 4 maidens, none for 57. Hooper, 24 overs, 4 maidens, none for 69. And Adams, 11 overs, 2 maidens, 1 for 37. So Australia 5 for 272 at stumps and honours even after day one of the third test.
Disappointing to get out with 10 minutes to go, though. I was looking to get a big one tomorrow, but can't complain. Hit the ball in the middle. It's just a fair catch, actually, in the end.
A fair bit of pressure on you when you went out, wasn't there?
Was there? Jeez, I wasn't aware of that, no. Yeah, I've been copying a bit of a pasting in the papers the last couple of weeks, so it's nice to get a few runs on the board and keep a few people quiet for a couple of weeks. So, yeah, I was happy.
I suppose also to do it in Sydney as well. The crowd gave you great support in that.
It was great. Yeah, the crowd were good the whole way through. Actually, I felt the support the moment I walked out the gate. So, yeah, it was great to get one in Sydney. I haven't scored a Test 100 here, and actually I haven't got a first class 100 here for a couple of years. So, couldn't have been a better place to get one.
What you make of the pitch out there?
Pretty good today. I think it'll be very good to bat on the first 2 or 3 days. It's pretty hard. So, I think later on it might turn a little bit once the wicket deteriorates a little bit, but at the moment it's pretty hard, so it's a good batting surface.
Was there any turn out there for Adams and Hooper today?
Oh, the occasional one, but I don't think either of those guys are big turners of the ball, so you know, to see Shane and Greg, I think they give it more of a rip, so yeah, I definitely think there'll be a turn at some stage, but maybe not a lot till the third day.
Do you think about the fourth day? Would there be any suggestion of that?
In the Shield games, they haven't really dusted up too much this year. They've been a lot harder, the wickets here, so probably not until late in the fourth or fifth day it's going to turn a lot, so, but I still think there's enough turn there for our guys anyway.
What about you and your brother Mark? We're looking good until Mark took that quick single. Look at it. It's only the third time you batted together in Test. You're closing on the 100 partnership.
Oh, yeah, that's no big deal. I mean, 100 partnership would be nice, but we weren't thinking about it. Yeah, Mark obviously thought he had passed Carl there, but he's pretty quick on his feet and picked it up. It was a good throw and he was out by a long way, so that's just one of those things. It was a good piece of fielding.
3 late wickets, 5 for 272. What's a good total?
Well, it was disappointing. Would have been like to have been 2 or 3 down at the end of the night. We probably deserved that, but we lost a couple of quick ones at the end. It was disappointing, but I think anywhere near 400 is a good total. In Sydney, it's always a good total to defend.
I'm looking forward to Warne and Matthews having a bowl.
Yeah, for sure. They'll be keen to have a bowl here. I think they'll bowl well together as well. They're pretty good mates, and I think there'll be enough there to help them out there, for sure.
Ambrose bowls to Border, who drives out through the covers. 4 runs, lovely stroke. Gosh, he's punishing anything a little bit wide, and that was right in the slot to be driven. And he just sort of punches that drive, doesn't he? That was a splendid stroke by Border, who goes to 19 now. Australia 5 for 304.
He waits so late on Curtly Ambrose. The ball is right to him before he chooses his moment. It's helped him into 2. I thought in Brisbane his lateness in defence was really extraordinary and allowed him to survive some very testing bowling. And even once in that over, he adjusted off the pitch. That time he waited and waited and waited, saw the ball was up to him, and then cracked it through point. The West Indians have the wrong sort of bowlers to Border, actually. They need a Kapil Dev out there.
And now 2 runs away from 10,000 to become the second Test player to do that. Ambrose bowls to Border, who defends away on the offside, and there's no run. I think the crowd here are attentive. They like their cricket. They'd understand that milestone is nigh, though now that over's finished and he'll have to wait a little bit longer. So Border is 19, Matthews 10, and Australia now 5 for 304, 22 extras in that. So a single to Matthews, who goes to 11. Border is 19, Australia 5 for 305. I wonder if Border can polish these runs off before the drinks break. Here comes Hooper, and Border pushes forward in defence, just stroking the ball down into the gully where it's fielded by Logie, and there's no run. 2 balls in the over to go. Hooper wanders back, bowling from the Randwick end. The crowd expectant here as Hooper bowls, and Border slashes that ball to backward point. Now he's got one. Will he come back for the second? Haynes on it. He wants the second. It's not there. The throw comes in, and Alan Border now 9,999 runs. Can't go much closer than that. Border 20, Matthews 11, 5 for 306. So Alan Border will have to wait a little bit longer. Last ball of the over coming up, and then the drinks break. He looks conscious of it. He wanted that second, didn't he?
It's not a good time for him to get struck by lightning, is it?
No. No, I don't think he'd like to wait till Tuesday or Wednesday to make it. Hooper, last ball of the over to Matthews, who hits that off at thick top edge in the air, down towards third man. They've got one. They're coming back for the second. I think this might be a boundary. Does Logie run it down? He can't. 5 for 310. From the last ball of the over, Matthews gets a boundary, a streaky shot, but I suppose safe nonetheless. You can play those sorts of shot if the field's not there. So he goes to 15, And Australia in this first hour of play, Matthews 15, Border 20, and they've moved their overnight score of 5 for 272 along to 5 for 310. 5 for 310 as Drinks come onto the field.
And now Hooper around the wicket from the Randwick end, and Matthews uses his feet, punches to mid-off. Border slow to respond here to Matthews' call for a run, but it's there quite easily, so Border's back on strike. The score 5 for 311. Matthews on 16, Border 20. Both having anxious moments this morning, but they've come through an hour and a little bit more now, and they really have solidified Australia's position in this match.
Gee, wouldn't you bring mid-on and mid-off a little bit closer? I just think there's so many singles have been scored in those areas in this game.
Hooper comes in and bowls to Border, and he gives it air. Border pushes on the offside, out to extra cover. The run's still not there as Adams zeroes in on the ball, and so Border has to wait a moment. But yes, the push quite straight, but just wide of the bowler, very inviting. Hooper again bowls quicker. Border chops into the ground. Matthews wants it. Border hesitates, and they decide they won't go. Logie fields backward of point.
Isn't it amazing? It's amazing, Tim, really. 9,999 test runs. And can you get the last one?
Worse than being on 99. In moves Hooper and bowls. Border leans forward, just dead bats the ball back to the bowler.
Reminds me of that 99th run when Mark Waugh was on 99 in Melbourne. That took about 5 years to get that 100th run, or it must have felt like it.
Hooper comes in once more, and Border is down. Pushing to mid-on. They go for the run, and they complete it. Standing ovation for Alan Border. The second in history to achieve 10,000 runs. 10 grand reasons why he's one of the greats.
Great ovation by the crowd in Sydney. Greg Matthews going to shake his hand. 10,000 test runs. They always come with these little things, don't they? A push to mid-on, and that's the difference between 9,999 and 10,000. He's 122 behind Sunil Gavaskar, and just to say he won't reach him in this Sydney Test match. A prolonged ovation from the crowd, and well deserved.
So it's more like the one-day game field here at the moment, the way they've got them spread out, just playing on the batsman's patience, hoping to frustrate him into error here. Bowling a little bit of width occasionally. That's wide, and he's bowled him at a no ball. He went for the big shot through the offside, and Alan Border, who's threatened to drag a couple back into his stumps today, did exactly that. But alas for Simmons and the West Indies, it was a no ball, and it's a rarity too with the West Indies these days. Without Patrick Patterson in the attack, they don't bowl too many. And there you are. He dragged that from a long way outside the off stump, but he's not out.
Now for Border, there's the orthodox slip. The stronger offside field as Adams comes in, and the Australian captain just maybe thinking of cutting and then deciding to get onto the front foot, steering the ball down to third man. Border 50, Matthews 41, 307 for 5, and Border continuing to have a marvellous series. The Australian captain 73-17, 110, 4, and now 50.
And a good effort by Alan Border. He loves coming in when 3 or 4 men have got out, and the bowlers are on top, digging in and then gradually working his way towards command. I don't think one of his best innings particularly. Faultless, but not stretched.
It's a leg gully. Ambrose bowls short. Back goes Matthews. Takes it off the line of the stumps towards the boundary. It's going fast. It goes for 4. He went a long way across, exposing his leg stump. Inside the line, he's taken a boundary. He acknowledges the applause from the dressing room and the crowd, from everyone, Greg Matthews, because that stroke has brought up his 50. And it's a new record for Australia for this wicket against the West Indies at the SCG. It's 5 for 391. The partnership 121.
Really has got a good temperament for Test cricket, Greg Matthews. He loves these wickets. There isn't much bounce in, and he's dug in again today. He's improving he's really got the Test record of a batsman, Greg Matthews, and it's good to see him out there, tenacious as ever.
5 for 399. He's up again, bowls to Matthews. Matthews goes back and wheels it away off his body, down behind square. The 400 comes up for Australia. 5 for 400. A leg by brings up the 400. And that's the end of the over from Ambrose. Ambrose not having any joy today. 31 overs, 8 maidens. Has 2 for 67. Australia 5 for 400.
Don't miss the Queen of Country Pop, Shania Twain, on Saturday Night Country.
Don't impress me much.
Becky chats with Shania about her first album in 5 years, Waking Up Dreaming. And find out how she makes her songwriting so relatable.
Being conversational, saying it like it is, and a little bit of sense of humour to, balance out the sass. Never hurts.
Shania Twain on Saturday Night Country with Becky Cole. Listen now on the ABC Listen app.
ABC Sport Digital Radio. Your home of football.
More cricket coming up from the SCG, the third test of the 1992-93 cricket series between Australia and the West Indies. Very shortly, we'll be going to hear the resumption of the Australian innings.
Border 74, Matthews 69, 5 for 425. Not many scoring options in terms of boundary-type scoring, but Border played that beautifully. Hooper bowls again. Border back cuts. There's Napil for a catch behind, and he's out. So at last, that long-awaited breakthrough for the West Indies. The partnership has yielded 155 invaluable runs for Australia. 153 of them today. Finally, Border out for the second time in this series in the 70s. Caught Murray, bowled Hooper for 74. Australia 6 for 425.
Well, I think just a little bit of tiredness setting in there for Alan Border. This crowd gives him practically a standing ovation. A lot of them still sitting down, but acknowledging fine determination of Alan Border. Just acknowledging it with his bat. But unusual dismissal because he's usually so strong off that back foot, and on that occasion it was slower delivery, just got a little bit of bounce on it. He pinned the ears back and to try to smash it away. Kept probably a little bit low, but good keeping by Murray. Not easy to take those ones, and he's had a good game so far. 3 victims for the in his first test, and kept very well. Been very tidy, and you can getting into this end of this 5th session. Wicketkeeper plays a very important role that he's got to make sure the fielding is up to standard. And if he'd have dropped one, the morale of the West Indies would have dropped even lower than it was. But he didn't. He took a nice catch, a bottom edge catch, very difficult. He was across there, and umpire Hare took a while to give it out. I think it must have been so obvious that he was just expecting that Alan Border would go. But good wicket for Carl Hooper too. He was involved in the run out yesterday of Mark Waugh. He's trying to get into the game because he's a very talented player, hasn't had much luck so far. But what the Australians really need here, Tim, is now for someone like Healy to come out and play a few shots to really get this game moving again.
There's a catch behind the wicket. Matthews has just dabbed at that ball from Hooper that did spin a little bit, and he's touched it into the gloves of the keeper. Matthews caught by wicketkeeper Junior Murray off Hooper for 79, and it's 7 for 440.
Well, that was a great innings by Greg Matthews. When you say great, probably not great as far as entertainment values goes, but great value to his team. He's involved in that 155-run partnership with Alan Border. And I think he, even though quite happy, Nerby would be a little bit disappointed in getting out just 6 minutes from the tea break, because if he'd have gone to tea, I think he would have had his eyes firmly set on getting 100. And a nice round of ovation for him as he makes his way through the gate.
Yes, round the ground he's getting a standing ovation as he goes into the members' pavilion now. And the next batsman out is the national hero, Mervyn Hughes. Although I think, yes, listen to that.
First appearance at the SCG this year.
You see, national hero status, and Tim was talking about this earlier, transcends the state boundaries. And I know Witt's a very popular man here, New South Wales hero, but there can only be one national hero. He's a character, this bloke.
Bishop comes and bowls wide of the crease, and that's a big heave-o. Hayes is trying to get under it at the mid-off position, takes the catch. Bishop has taken the wicket of Hughes. Caught Haynes off the bowling of Bishop for 17. Healy's now at 17. 469 for 8 Australia.
And Merv Hughes falls in a very attacking vein. He tried to hit that one over the mid-on boundary. And just as we spoke about some aggression from these players, Merv goes the big hit and only succeeds in getting a bit of a top edge, just skewed away over mid-off. He aimed it on the leg side, perhaps around mid-on or wide mid-on. There was no one out there to stop it. And Ian Bishop just a little bit too quick for Merv on that occasion, getting the top half of the bat to it. and it's skewed out to mid-off where Desmond Haynes was feeling a little bit deep. A little bit deeper than orthodox mid-off, I would say, and took a fairly easy catch as it just looped up to him. And Ian Bishop now has his second wicket, and Merv Hughes leaves, and he's replaced by the man of the match from the Melbourne Test match, Shane Warne, the Victorian leg spinner.
In moves Bishop again to bowl to Warne, and he gives him the charge and hits him over cover out to the fence for 4. Tremendous shot, outrageous, and he posts the 500 in buccaneering fashion. Australia 8 for 500, Warne not out 13.
Yes, and also goes into double figures, as you mentioned, Tim. So young Damien Martin, the solitary batsman on the lineup, without troubling the scorers at all. But he wouldn't be. He'd probably a bit disappointed yesterday when he was dismissed, but seeing that the Australians are in a fairly comfortable position, that he wouldn't mind that at the moment.
8 for 503. Hooper comes in again and bowls to Warne, who gives him the charge, swings him away out to mid-wicket. Simmons is camped under it and takes the catch. Warne out for 14. Caught by Simmons, bowled Hooper. And the end is near now for Australia at 9 for 503, and the declaration has come. Australia's first innings closed at 9 for 503. At 17 minutes past 5 local time. So the West Indies will have just over half an hour to bat tonight. That would be about 8 overs. And how would you like to be an opening batsman at a time like this? I know Keith Stackpole would love it. He would eat a new cricket ball. And he wouldn't mind going out after 1 7/8 days in the field. Ripple of applause for the Australian batsmen. An entertaining final wicket partnership. Warne out for 14. Healy not out 36. Australia 9 for 503 declared. And Carl Hooper eventually finishing with 3 for 137.
Board has gone for a change. The square cover has come to a short backward square position. Catching. Simmons is beaten. He's dropped. Oh, Lord. Well, let's see what happens. Well, it went to Healy. He got the right glove it. Came out of the glove, dropped into the lap of slip, and Simmons going, caught by
Taylor
and Paul McDermott.
Well, isn't it an amazing game, Reg? Yesterday we were talking about luck, and certainly luck hasn't gone the way of the West Indies over these last couple of test matches, and that's the luck that you need. And when you're on fire, when things are going your way, that's what you need. Healy was going to his right. He was on him very quickly, and good ball from McDermott, a little outswinger that caught the edge. Healy going to his right, but fortunately Taylor, who really wasn't backing up, was just watching proceedings. Suddenly the ball came to him, but he had enough nous to grab it, to sort of wrap the hands around the tummy, and in it went. And poor old Phil Simmons, walking very slowly back to the pavilion, is out. But an ounce of luck, well, not an ounce of luck, a lot of luck there for the Australians getting that big breakthrough. And it is going to be Richie Richardson, Reg Pereira.
Simmons caught Taylor after Healy didn't quite love it. The ball being pulled into the lap as described by Keith Stackpole there off the bowling of McDermott. Haynes is not at 8.
Well, Bob, 10,000 runs up for Alan Border really was a fantastic effort, wasn't it?
Wonderful effort, one thoroughly deserved, 10,000. You know, playing for Australia at a time when we weren't particularly strong is the last barrier so often between a defeat for Australia and a disgrace for Australia occasionally, and he's just been a great performer.
He went into this match needing 21. I think people had made it pretty clear to him exactly how many runs he'd needed. Do you think it was starting to get to him at all?
No, I don't think so. I think he's past that stage. I think he's really worried a little while ago when he couldn't get 100. The 100 in Sri Lanka, I think, erased all the doubts he may have had, and of course he's been playing so well now.
Well, he broke that barrier. Now he's through the 10,000. I suppose the Gavaskar mark is the next one, but he really seems to be going as well as ever.
He's playing very well. I think he's probably batting as well as he has for 2 years, in my view. And he's keen, he's pretty fit, and I don't think he's going to stop for a long while.
Well, you've got your 500 runs on the board now. The declaration came just after 5 o'clock. Would you have liked to have seen those runs come a little bit quicker? Of course, you're in a great position of strength, but would you have liked to have had longer crack at them tonight?
I'm pretty pleased with 500 runs.
against the West Indies. I think we're in a fantastic position. The wicket's got to take more spin, so the longer you bat on the second day, the more wear and tear there's going to be when we bowl.
Did you notice any turnout there, or from the batsmen who've come back in?
I think it's turning more. I think Greg Matthews' dismissal was testimony to that. And with a leg spinner, of course, and with Greg himself, who spins more than their spinners, then I think we'll see the ball spinning a lot.
A lot of overs to be sent down by the spinners then.
Well, you know, on a wicket like that, you've got to try everything you can. The spinners obviously will be favoured to take wickets, but often on a track like Sydney, those fast bowlers who keep the ball up and get one to cut every now and then can be a problem also.
Australia is in a commanding position at stumps on day 2 of the 3rd Test in Sydney. Having ground on relentlessly to a score of 9 declared for 503, the Australians have completed the day's work by claiming the wicket of Simmons before stumps. The West Indies are 1 for 24. The Warhorses, Haynes 16 and Richardson 3, holding the fort. Alan Border became the second man in Test history after Sunil Gavaskar to reach the Himalayan figure of 10,000 Test runs as he and Greg Matthews batted through this morning's pre-lunch session. Progress was slow, painfully so for Matthews, who was struck a couple of times on the bottom hand, and streakily so for Border, who edged on the bounce to the keeper and into the afternoon played onto his stumps from a Simmons no ball. The partnership lasted until half an hour before tea and produced 155 runs, which secured an unassailable position for Australia before Border was out for 74. Matthews followed for 79, but still Australia pressed on determinedly, the declaration only coming after 5 o'clock at the fall of the 9th wicket. Faced with an awkward 8 overs, the West Indies lost Melbourne century maker Simmons, who edged McDermott to Healy. The keeper fumbled, but an alert Taylor snatched the spillage. Haynes and Richardson held on and will carry enormous responsibility into the 3rd day. The day's details: Australia resuming at 5 for 272, lost Border 74, Matthews 79, Hughes 17, Warne 14, Healy remained not out 36. There were 30 sundries, the declaration coming at 9 for 503. Ambrose took 2 for 87, Bishop likewise 2 for 87, Walsh none for 86, Hooper from 45 overs and 4 balls, 3 for 137, Adams 1 for 56, and Simmons no wicket for 25. In reply, the West Indies lost Simmons for 3, Haynes is 16, Richardson 3, 2 extras, 1 for 24 at stumps. McDermott 4 overs, 1 for 8, Hughes 2 overs, none for 13, Matthews 2 overs, no wicket for 1. So Australia 9 declared for 503, the Windies 1 for 24 in reply. Tim Lane at the SCG for ABC Radio Sport.
Well, I suppose, over the last couple of weeks it was obvious that it was going to happen, sooner than I had expected, I suppose, the way that the runs have been coming. So it was more just sort of relief just to get it out of the road, so now I can just concentrate on batting, and that was, it's a great milestone, but it was sort of hanging there and just was good to get it out of the road.
You got the 100 last week, then the milestone this time. Do you feel as if you're batting as well as ever?
Yeah, I'm batting reasonably well. There's, little bits and pieces you always, can work on. But it's probably a bit late for me at the moment. But
Like what, mate?
I would have liked to score a little bit quicker today, but you've got to give credit to them. They kept rushing in. We had to get through the new ball. I thought that was a crucial time, and it'd be nice to just score a little bit quicker, but you've got to give credit to the bowling. They kept it nice and tight, and it was hard work getting it through the field.
At Drinks, you were 1 run short. Mike Whitney then shook your hand. I'm wondering, was there any advice then, and what did he say? Or was it a premature congratulation?
Oh, just a premature congratulations. Can't remember too much about what was said, just sort of keep going, get the 10 grand. Actually, he did mention to me that he was standing down the fence sort of waiting to come on for drinks, and bloke yelled out from the crowd, said something like, "Hey Whitney, you know that Border's only got 9,940 more test runs than you?"
Is it especially nice to get him in Sydney?
Yes, as I said pre-test, that I played a lot of my early cricket here. I like Sydney. I like playing here. So it's just a special. I just wanted to do it in Australia rather than sort of have an ordinary series here and sort of go to New Zealand, with sort of 20 to get or something like that. It's just really nice to get 10,000 especially here.
Just seem to be concentrating really well. Has it helped you thinking about these things?
Not really. I think the opposition takes care of that. You've got to be on your game. And plus, the way the series is, I mean, I'm just really keen to do well in the series, personally and from a team point of view, so I suppose that's all part of it.
I think you said not long ago, I think I'm right in saying you're more interested in the 10,000 than in Gavaskar. Is that the case? Or...
Yeah, I thought to myself that, going for Gavaskar, is nice. I mean, it'd be a nice thought. But if I scored 10,000 but didn't play the cricket to get to 10,000, 1, 2, 2, it wouldn't be, the end of the earth. I thought 10,000 seemed like a nice round figure to finish on. As it's turned out, it might be, might have a few more runs left in me yet.
11,000 a nice round figure too?
Well, I'll just keep batting now and hopefully just scoring, doing my bit for the side. And I've got I suppose it's the Gavaskar figure now is the goal, and then just sort of set something up for someone else to try and get past.
The numbers, did you just get them out of the newspaper to know exactly how many you had to score today? Or?
No, there was a sign up there in the one of those stands, 10,000, 1, 2, 3, I think it had up. So.
With the numbers today to get to 10,000.
Oh, I knew.
I know you've been spoken plenty about. Where did you first sort of?
Oh, I knew.
Look it up, or did
no, I think out of the press conference the other day, I knew I had 21 to get.
Right,
so.
just read the book.
Yeah.
Charlie Watt gives him his books.
Yeah.
Did you get the no ball call when you played that wrong?
No, I didn't. No. So, it was my day.
Not getting, you got to 74 and not going further. What's that? Is that a real bit of a hole?
Yeah, disappointing because I was just started to hit the ball well and we were going along real nicely, and maybe if you stay in, we could sort of maybe set up a declaration a little bit earlier, but I just wanted to grind them in as much as we could. And I suppose in the back of my mind, 100 Sydney, you're not going to get too many more opportunities to do it, so it was in the back of my mind. And then just make sure we batted and got a big score, because the wicket's still good, but we wanted to bat when it was at its best, and hopefully it'll start turning as from ball one tomorrow. Sorry?
Greg Gidney.
Yeah, apparently there was a few that started to went, and Hooper got a couple to go, so hopefully just, easing into tomorrow, the wicket will start to dry out a little bit more and give the spinners some more help.
You and Greg, how hard is it for them to bowl to two left-handers? They just didn't seem to enjoy it at all.
I think a lot of bowlers prefer bowling at right-handers. I think that's without question is a slight advantage in certain circumstances. I don't know, we were just very mindful to get through the new ball so that we set up a 400 total. That was what we set about, and might have been a bit sluggish this morning, but we just, 500 runs on the board now, and hopefully we can sort of do some winkling tomorrow and see what happens after that.
The bonus, picking up that late wicket?
That was the idea, declare so we get a wicket or two at the end, and it's worked out really well. Yes, we can bowl them out in 3 days.
So Matthews just varying his pace, flighting 1 or 2 in the over, and then occasionally, as he often does in all the matches he plays on this ground for New South Wales, firing it in near that off stump, hoping to get one to grip and spin. He's in again at Haynes. Haynes gets a quicker ball, and he's bowled him. He's played it on. Desmond Haynes has played on, and Matthews is exultant. He leaps through to the sky. Desmond Haynes, a little unlucky there, just playing the ball onto his stumps, has been bowled by Matthews for 22. A very important wicket. And the West Indies at 2 for 31.
Well, it's amazing how you can get yourself into trouble, Jim. That was the last ball of the over, I think, and I was just about to say a strange move by Alan Border bringing on Greg Matthews so early, because I felt that, this new ball, it's only 9 overs, 10 overs old, and perhaps a couple of overs from pace at both ends may have been the way to go. But how wrong you can be, because Desmond Haynes very watchful, just patting the ball down in front of him. I think it must have had enough backspin or hit the boot and went back and just rolled, and you could see them waiting, watching the ball just going back onto the stump, and I think that bail must have hung there for a while, tilted and then just fell off, and suddenly Greg Matthews, you could see his reaction, tremendous for him. But Desmond Haynes, when you're out of luck, when you're out of form, certainly things like that do happen, and that's been the trend so far during this series. I know I've spoken several times about luck, and sometimes you can create your own luck, but certainly Since Brisbane, things haven't gone the way of the West Indies, and both dismissals, you look at the first one last night, Simmons snicking it through to Healy, escaping through the gloves, Taylor then picking it up. That one then, normal defensive shot into the ground, went back onto the wicket, and certainly no luck going the way of the West Indies.
Hughes comes in again and bowls. It's well up. Lara drives on the onside. This will be his 50. Up towards the mid-wicket boundary it goes. Warne giving chase. They've taken two, and the ball beats Warne into the fence. And the Prince of Trinidad is hailed by the Sydney crowd as he has brought tremendous excitement to this third day at the SCG. 52 not out. A wonderful cameo innings. The West Indies 2 for 128.
Well, they don't come any better than that. And Richie Richardson just having a word to the youngster then. Obviously congratulating him, but just telling him probably to keep his cool, make sure, just wait for the ball. But a fabulous innings by Lara. 2 for 31 when he came to the wicket, and he wasn't intent upon just sticking around, having a look at things. He wanted to get on top of this Australian attack, and fabulous innings so far.
War in, bowls to Richardson, flicks him away through mid-wicket. This will be his 50. They've taken one, and they come back for the second. And a double whammy, the 50 and the 100 partnership. The West Indians precariously poised on the tightrope when Haynes was dismissed this morning at 31. And here they are with a couple of rain interruptions thrown in at 2 for 132. Lara 53 and Richardson 50.
Yes, and a very good innings by Richie Richardson, and had a pretty good series so far. The only thing that really has eluded him is that big score, and he's given the Australians something to think about. This aggressive play has made the Australians alter their tactics.
The crowd, I think, will erupt here to welcome 100. That's providing he gets the single. It's been a wonderful knock. Slow hand clap for no particular reason here at the SCG. As that ball is flicked behind square by Lara, he takes off for his first Test 100. The Prince of Trinidad looks a very relieved young man. Gee, it's been a great knock. And he gets a standing ovation from the members' stand. He signalled to the Runes he's going to go down and get some warm appreciation from his captain. They go into a big hug in the middle of the pitch. It's been a masterful knock. And, well, it's worth a summer of one's life just to sit and watch a 100 like that. Lara 100, Richardson 82, and the West Indies 2 for 212.
And you can hear that ovation of Brian Lara certainly deserves it. That was one of the best Test 100s you're ever likely to see.
And now it's a bit of an anticlimax. Warne goes in and bowls to Richardson. He defends. That close defence of his. Bat in front of the pad as he crouches forward in defence. Now Warne's going to go, he's going to change his line, is he? Yes, he's been bowling over the wickets. Is he going to go around? Yes, he will. So now the sight screen to be moved. I better start to give you some details. Lara's 100, coming in 172 minutes, 12 fours and just 125 deliveries. What a sparkling effort. Just a marvellous 100.
Warne bowls, Richardson sweeps, and that goes through the legs of Healy, and Border will pick it up running from that short third man fine leg position really, and get a bat onto that, but along the ground Healy had his legs apart and it came through them, and that's the 200 partnership.
Oh, great partnership, Reds, but just a little bit of luck there. I don't know how that missed the leg stump, because we're right behind it, and Richie must have got just a bottom edge on it as he went to sweep it and dragged it back and just fractionally missed the stumps and got through the legs of Healy. But a magnificent partnership by the these two West Indians. 2 for 31 this morning, lost the early wicket of Desmond Haynes, and at that point anything could have happened to this West Indian innings. And as you mentioned, Reg, this is just the type of partnership they needed to give those players back, sitting back in the pavilion, a little bit of confidence too, and this is a very good batting strip.
When rain stopped play in the final session of day 3 at the Sydney Cricket Ground, the West Indies were 2 for 248. Lara not out 121, Richardson not out 94, and their partnership has now yielded 217 runs. This is an all-time third wicket record for any country on the SCG. The 43 minutes of play after tea were rather less electrifying than the early sessions on this third day, with the batsmen not looking as certain as they had during the afternoon. Lara, having reached his 100 just before tea, began streakily after the break, edging McDermott wide of the keeper for 4, then edging Matthews past Taylor at slip for 3 more. However, he and Richardson have now lifted their team to within 56 runs of the follow-on mark, and Australia's chances of forcing a win in the match are receding. The details of the West Indies' reply to Australia's first innings score of 9 declared for 503. Simmons out yesterday, caught Taylor, bowled McDermott for 3. Haynes, the only man out today, bowled through the gate, perhaps inside edging onto the stumps by Matthews for 22. Lara not out 121. Richardson not out 94. 7 extras, 2 for 248. McDermott 17 overs, 1 maiden, 1 for 72. Hughes 6 overs, none for 34. Steve Waugh 6 overs, none for 29. Matthews 13 overs, 1 maiden, 1 for 48. Warren 14 overs, no maiden, none for 39. Border 7 overs, none for 20. And Mark Waugh bowled 5 balls, no wicket for 2. So the West Indies fighting back strongly on day 3, 2 for 248, when rain stopped play at around about 5:15. Tim Lane at the SCG for ABC Radio Sport.
New from ABC Events.
Heading to Australia, your new dose of live laughs from 2 award-winning comedians. Dylan Moran from Black Books.
I grew up in Ireland in the 1970s. Essentially, you're looking at Chernobyl with priests.
And Michael McIntyre.
Then rude people, as soon as the sign's off, they will immediately recline. You know who you are.
Dylan Moran and Michael McIntyre, live in 2023. For details, visit abc.net.au/ABC Events. ABC Sport Digital Radio, your home of cricket.
Hello, I'm Ned Hall. We'll continue listening now to the Test match series of 92-93, Australia against the West Indies, the third Test match being played at the SCG in Sydney. And this piece starts with a lovely interview with the outstanding Brian Lara.
A most superb and entertaining knock. Maybe you can reflect now that you had a chance to sit down and think about it innings you've just played here for the West Indies.
Well, I think it's very important, firstly, that we try to get to 300 or 304, I think, which would save the follow-on. So we needed a very good partnership, especially when we lost 2 early wickets. I thought that the pitch was a pretty good batting track, and I was quite happy to get off to a good start and bet on innings. I've been struggling to get past 50 odd. I've been getting to 50 and then losing some concentration, and I've been working on that over the last couple of days, and I was quite happy to come out with 100.
You've set yourself a very high standard here, Brian, because all of the great players who've played for the West Indies in Australia, seeing this innings, certainly they feel that it's a top order of a knock.
Well, I think that I had a lot of things in my favour. The outfield was very wet. The spinners weren't able to grip the ball properly, and even with all those advantages, I think that I was quite happy with my innings. I was proud of myself scoring my first century here, especially on a pitch where the West Indies normally struggle against spin. And I'm quite happy.
At any time during the knock, did you lose any concentration?
Well, after 50, I told myself that I have to go on from here. I've had 2 50s in the 2 previous Test matches. And I told myself that I needed to concentrate a little more. I needed to keep a momentum going because I found I was struggling to, I was putting myself under a lot of pressure before this, and I wasn't scoring freely after 50. And I told myself that I needed to go on and keep the scoring rate moving, and forget about scoring your first 100. And I was really concentrating right through till the end, and it was a superb feeling.
It was an on-off day with the weather not being good, stoppages, rain. Did that make concentrating any harder?
It was a bit hard, especially when there were times that we were actually on our way out and the rain started again. You had to stop and go back into the dressing room. That was a bit disturbing. But then again, as I said, the spinners couldn't grip the ball, so it was all in. I had my advantages also.
What was the kind of dialogue between yourself and your captain?
Well, I think that Richie realized the problem with me getting to 50 and not going on from there, and he was telling me every time to keep concentrating, keep watching the score, not your personal score, but the team score, and what we needed from you out there. And he's always telling me that, you know, be batting here till 7 o'clock. You know, not till you get your 100s, till 7 o'clock be batting. So it's very important that he keeps telling me that.
I suppose you had wanted to play Test cricket at an earlier stage. You had to wait a little while, but certainly this innings ensures that it's worth the wait.
Yes, well, cricket on the whole, it's worth its wait. You know, like, and I've been around, as you said, for about 4 years, and I haven't been playing much. But I think that just being around the guys was quite good for me, and I learned a lot, especially around Cliff Richards and Gordon Greenwich and these guys. And I had to wait. It was a bit frustrating sometimes, especially when, you know, you had a lot of form. You know, like I remember 1991 when the Australians were there. And, you know, you want to play, but the thing is, you know, the great players were wrong, and it was kind of hard. So I think it was worth it.
The one-day game, is it giving you a problem in adapting from opening to coming in at number 4 in the Test?
No, well, I think that I'll be honest with you. I think that I'm one of the lucky guys on the team, actually. You know, I think that opening in one-day cricket is an advantage. Where you have 50 overs to bat, you know, you could afford to build an innings rather than coming out number 4 or 5, where you have to get things going immediately. And going back to bat at number 4 in Test cricket is something that I really want to do. You know, because opening in Test cricket is another story. So I'm quite happy. I think I'm privileged actually to be batting at 4 in Test matches and number 2 opening in the one-day cricket. So I'm happy with that.
A lot of personal achievements today, a lot of records going. A partnership between yourself and Richie Richardson that has maybe changed the fortunes of the West Indies on this tour, because a bad day here at Sydney could have meant maybe no chance of staying in the actual fight.
Yeah, I think that we broke a lot of records today. You know, I think that as I said, we needed to break records. We needed to stay out there and bat and bat. And tomorrow again, on the 4th day, we need to go there and bat the entire day, you know, to give ourselves a chance of not losing the match, 1, and 2, you know, accumulating enough runs where we can give Australia a chance on the last day.
Brian, from new player in Test cricket, you seem remarkably comfortable, remarkably composed. You're obviously not lacking in confidence at all.
But I'm always a confident person. I believe in myself from very young. You know, I always like being on top, and I've been on top, like playing youth cricket, also at school level, and you know, I always see myself doing well. I think that one of the problems you can get into is not believing in yourself, you know, not having enough confidence. I always tell myself that, you know, you're capable of performing at whatever level they put you on.
But is it sometimes to your detriment? Do you sometimes have a little bit too much confidence and have to curb your natural game?
I think that some people do have a problem with that, but I think that I like batting a lot. You know, I know the importance of confidence, but I also know the danger of being overconfident. And I think that I like batting a lot, so I think I'm quite happy with the state I'm in.
Is that one of the messages the skipper was giving you out there batting today? You said before, keep concentrating, keep batting until 7 o'clock. But did he also say perhaps that, you know, calm down at times?
Well, I thought it was a pretty, as I said, a good pitch, and I did not want myself to get into any rut or anything like that. I thought that it was it's a pitch that you should go out there and play the game that you're accustomed playing. There was no big horror in the pitch actually, so it just needed to go out there and bat like how I know how I could bat.
A message for people back home in Trinidad, I guess they'd be pretty excited?
Well, I think that I hope this is the first of many, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that have been up whole night waiting for me to score my 100. They've had 250 so far and a bit of disappointment, but I'm quite happy to get my first century. And I know my mom and my brothers and sisters and everyone will be listening, and I think that I need to tell them thanks a lot. You know, they pray a lot for me and also my friends. So I hope this is the first of many, and I'll be having their support and going on from here.
And what about the discos in Port of Spain? I understand you're a regular there. I suppose the music will be playing that a little bit louder tonight?
Off season I'm a regular there, but I think that, yeah, I think so. I think they will be missing me now, but I think they'll be quite happy for me. Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks a lot.
Wall bowls to Richardson, who looks for the single here. He turns it down the backward square leg. And another century to the bat of Richie Richardson, this time as the West Indies skipper. And as he came to the wicket, the West Indies were looking at all sorts of dire possibilities in this Test match. As he goes to 3 figures, they're well and truly past that. It's been a lovely knock from him. Probably not quite the slashing innings we saw from Brian Lara, but what a good captain's innings. 2 for 264. Richardson now 100, Lara 130.
Yes, a fabulous innings. Came to the wicket on the night of the second day at 1 for 13 when Phil Simmons was out, caught by tail off McDermott, and played beautifully.
Matthews bowls once more, wide of the off stump, and he hammers it through the covers and posts his 150 in the most flamboyant and grand style. And Richardson comes down to again shake his hand. There's the 23-year-old from Trinidad, Rich, is 150. The West Indies 2 for 295.
Well, we just spoke of Sobers making 168 here, and that shot must have been very reminiscent of the great Sir Garfield. Down on one knee. Greg Matthews tried something different. It was a round arm ball. It was wide. It was fair enough to try it, but Brian Lara dealt with it in perfect manner.
McDermott begins to move in. 2 slips in the gully, crouching as he comes up to Lara, and Lara is back and forces that through the covers. Out towards extra cover. Border will pull this back inside the boundary. He's onto the ball now as they turn for the 3rd run. And Border spins around, sees that not looking for the 4th, and sends a return which is tidied up by Healy. And you just have to be a fraction short or a fraction up, or just off stump or leg stump, and Lara's going to put you away.
He's playing so well off the back foot now, moving behind the ball, and really that was basically a good length delivery, about 9 inches perhaps short of a good length. And as you say, he just pushed it into the covers, and it kept going even on a wet outfield. Went for 3 runs and goes past Gary Sobers' Reds.
Yes, Tim Lane certainly been prompting that. 160 at Sobers, 143 Haynes, 137 S. Nurse on the scrum. So Richardson waits for Matthew Hughes to arrive. He's on 109, and he pulls that high down to backward square. He could be caught. He is caught, and finally success for Australia. Short delivery outside the line of the leg stump. Richardson went for the pull shot, and Shane Warne at that deep backward square had to take a couple of steps, settle himself, took it just about chest high, and a fine partnership, a magnificent partnership here for the West Indies going. Richardson for 109, caught by Shane Warne off the bowling of Hughes. Lara Nod 176. The West Indies, after being 2 for 31, are 3 for 324.
Just slightly lost his rhythm. Richie Richardson in the last hour or so of his innings hasn't quite been able to hit the boundaries, and good piece of bowling by Mervyn Hughes. He deserved a wicket his previous over, and this time Richardson went for the hook and just went straight to the fieldsman on the boundary. Marvellous ovation from the crowd, a standing ovation. Not a huge crowd here today with the weather, but a big ovation from him. Well deserved. He was the rock upon which the West Indian innings was built. Around him, the embroidery of Brian Lara, but really an excellent innings. Once again, from Richie Richardson. He is the best player in the world at the moment, and hugging, is it Keith Upton, I suppose, coming out now, even with his bad hand, a hug between the two of them as they went in. A tribute there from the youngster to his captain. With the score on 3 for 347. And Jim Maxwell has uncovered for me the fact that only 4 West Indians have scored double centuries against Australia. Lara might become the 5th. He faces Warne, who gives it air. He's down and on, drives beautifully between mid-on and mid-wicket out to the fence, and he's 199, and the 350 is on the board. Well, that was a good shot. You can't say anything else. That was just a wonderful shot. He waited and waited and waited as Warne tossed one up, and he just popped it through a gap there. It wasn't really an on-drive. It wasn't a sweep. He just saw the gap, and he simply popped the ball through it. It was a wonderful little improvised shot. Not little, it went racing away for 4. Just a little bit of wristiness about it, as he seemed to, rather than, as you say, drive it straighter, was just able to roll the wrist a little and drag it away from mid-on, between mid-on and mid-wicket. Exquisitely placed, as so many of his shots have been. He's 199. Here comes Warne and bowls. It's turning to leg. He flicks it away to fine leg, or was it off the pad? They've run 1. They're coming back for the 2nd. This could be it. They complete 2 and they take a 3rd run. And yes, he did touch it. Brian Lara, 202 not out. The 5th West Indian to score a double century against Australia. And he's done it in his 5th Test match at the age of 23. And again, the crowd rises to him. Really is most a wonderful achievement that by Brian Lara. Great ovation from the crowd. It's not just the runs he's scored, it's the manner in which he's scored them. It's been one of the most outstanding innings, I think, that we've seen in Australia for many a long year. It's not only the stature and the situation, but the excitement and the sheer joy in the range of shots that he's played. This sort of cricketer really will revitalise Test cricket. It's just wonderful to watch from start to finish.
Well, Rowan, Brian Lara's innings, a fabulous knock, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, without a doubt. I mean, from the time he went in there yesterday and the first ball he stroked off the bat, you can see that he was on his way to a big score. And I'm very pleased and happy for him because he was an anxious young man, you know. And it's nice to see that he's got the 100 that he wanted for the last, since the first Test match.
You say he was an anxious young man. Do you refer to the series of 12th man performances in the West Indies or out here in this tour?
Well, not really. Since he started, you know, he played his first Test match in Pakistan a couple of years ago, and he made it's 44 in his first innings. And since then, he been left out the side. And his second Test match was against South Africa earlier last year, and he made a 60-odd in the first innings. And then he didn't play again till Brisbane. And of course, Brisbane, he got another 50 and then another 50 plus in Melbourne. And of course, you know, I mean, he was on the edge, I'm sure, and I know that. And of course, I'm very happy for him to score that magical 300, three figures.
And did the coach have to have a word or two to say to him about getting to 50 but not going on with it?
Well, he must realize that from youth level. Even he accustomed to score hundreds, and you know, it's only a matter of time. And I know what it is for a young player to score his first 100. But it's, as I said, patience and time paid off.
I'd imagine this hasn't come as any great surprise to you because you've shown great faith in the young player, batting him at 3 in the Tests, a very important role, and clearly it was just a matter of time, as you mentioned.
Oh yes, without a doubt, because this is our fourth person on the tour so far, 100, and we're looking forward for some more. And it's nice to see the players, younger players, are making their mark at Test level.
Yes, that's a good sign, with Keith Arthurton making runs in the first match and Phil Simmons, of course, now Brian Lara. This West Indian side seems to be coming along very nicely.
Yes, that's right. I mean, Keith, 150-odd in Brisbane, and Simmons, 100 in Melbourne, and of course, the skipper too, you mustn't forget him. He played a wonderful knock. You know, we were facing a total of 503 runs, and 2 for 31 we were in some problems, but they have got us out, and both of them played remarkably well. And I know Richie is a great player and always have done since he started, and I know that he wouldn't mind if I say a special congratulations to the young man also, because of his first 100, and we're looking forward to a lot of hundreds from him.
Yes, this is a little bit of a rebuilding process as far as the West Indies are concerned, with Greenwich, Richards, Dujon, Marshall all gone. But as you say, the batting seems to be coming along very well. What about the bowling? You happy with that rate of progress?
Oh yes, our bowler's been doing a fabulous job so far, and our batsmen, although we are getting hundreds and a lot of 50s, they're not 2 and 3 at the same time, and this is where we find ourselves in a little bit of problem. It's nice to see two batsmen get hundreds, and you can see the difference in scores.
Nice for you to come back to the SCG. You've played here, of course, in 60, 61, 68, 69, also for the rest of the world. You'd have a few memories?
Oh, yes. It's a fabulous ground, a fabulous place to play. And I know Brian will be very pleased to know that he's made his first 100 at the SCG.
And, of course, the ground's changed a little bit over the years from when you first came here.
Oh, yes. Well, a lot of changes, as a matter of fact, all around Australia in the Test arena. But, you know, it's all for the better.
McDermott bowls to Arthurton. And that ball swings in the air a little bit. He controls it well down towards wide mid-off, fielded by Boone. They run through to take a single, and that's the 400 on the board for the West Indies now. 3 for 400. Lara, 222. Arthurton, 29. The West Indies, 400 for 3.
And surprising that that's the first time the West Indies have ever scored a 400 in Australia. 384 was their previous highest score here, and after seeing some of those great batting orders that we've seen from the West Indies, the first time ever, I think, at the Sydney Cricket Ground, rather. Yes, thanks, Tim. I saw the frown come on the forehead then. At the Sydney Cricket Ground, the first time ever, they've got 400 here.
Here comes Border bowling to Lowry, goes back onto the stumps and crunches that ball over mid-wicket for 4 runs. That's the highest score now by a West Indian in Test cricket in Australia, against Australia. Brian Lara, 227 passes. Gordon Greenwich, who had scored 226 in 1990-91. Lara, 227. Atherton, 29. 3 for 405. The highest score by a West Indian against Australia. Fantastic performance. And this young fellow just picks his mark and hits fours. Sometimes takes a defensive strike like that.
3 for 448. Atherton within 3 of his 50. Is he caught behind as he plays at this? Yes, he is. Atherton out, caught by Healy off Matthews for 47. And the West Indies 4 for 448.
Well, just as we've said, Brian Lara was looking good and his partner Keith Atherton was looking just as good. Greg Matthews gets one to spin, and I wonder if bringing David Boone in there at silly mid-off just put a bit of a doubt in Keith Atherton's mind as he played forward. And he just got the bat a little bit further away from the pad because he knew if it took the edge and flew there, perhaps it was going to be caught. And the ball turned sharply, just took the outside edge, and Healy completed a fairly straightforward catch, and that ball did spin sharply too. It was right up around off stump, very full. Greg Matthews takes his second wicket, and that very, very good partnership comes to a close. Keith Atherton, 47. It seems like not insignificant, but not a great score compared to the other two, but it was a very good innings from him as well, and he looks like a fine player, and Greg Matthews, from the bowling point of view, would have been fairly happy to take his second wicket.
In comes Waugh and bowls to Lara on 248. He pushes on the offside. They go for a quick single and Mark Waugh fumbles. So he scores his 250th run, in fact. Lara 250 not out. So yet another landmark. And he becomes the equal 9th highest scorer by a West Indian in a test match, equaling Fowler Bacchus 250 against India in 1978-9. Carl Hooper, incidentally, is his new batting partner, and he's at the striker's end, and Keith Stackpole, he wouldn't mind getting among the runs.
No, he certainly wouldn't, Tim, and well played by Brian Lara. What more can you say about him that hasn't already been said? But nice gesture then by Steve Waugh as Lara went through for the single, just congratulating him, a little clap of the hands and eye contact, and it was a genuine acknowledgement by the Australian all-rounder.
Waugh bowls to Hooper, who pushes straight down the line and just pushes the ball down on the onside.
Remarkable stamina he's shown, Tim, not only with his concentration, but he's had to run a lot out there and still running as hard as ever, and a very fit young man.
Barry Foster's 287 here in 1903-4 is the highest test score on the Sydney Cricket Ground. So that, I think, the major target for him next. Matthews bowls to him, and he goes back onto the stumps and plays this rather late out towards point, and it's fielded by Border. Having said all that, I suppose every time I've ever talked about records when I've been sitting in the commentary chair, I've put the kiss of death on somebody, so they'll come if he's good enough, and he's certainly been good enough so far. It's been a magnificent knock, one that I'll remember for the rest of my days. It's been a beauty. Matthews bowls to him again. Lara is a little bit cramped as he plays it out into the covers. Chance of a run out. Oh, don't tell me he's out. Yes, he is. He went down the pitch. He decided that he'd gone a little bit too far and the run wasn't there. I think it was Damien Martin grabbed the ball and threw it back to the keeper, and Lara trying to scamper back. Maybe he was a bit too tight, and he's been run out for 277. And perhaps it's poetic justice that that was the way he was out, because you've got to figure that none of the bowlers were quite good enough. Lara, 277 run out. The West Indies 5 for 481. Now listen to this. Well, there might only be 7,500 people at the Sydney Cricket Ground today. I didn't believe that 7,500 people could make so much noise. What warm and generous applause for Brian Lara, who has given us fantastic entertainment for a day and a half. 277 run out. And the one milestone that he didn't, well, I suppose a couple of milestones that he didn't get. It's now the second highest test score at the Sydney Cricket Ground. R.E. Foster's 287 in 03-04 stands. But I stand to Brian Lara. What a fantastic innings. And I'm very sad, actually, that I put the kiss on him and he's out. I feel cheated.
Don't feel guilty, Nev. The only thing was it was a little bit of an anticlimax at the end because it was well struck. He thought it was past Damien Martin, but full credit to the young Western Australian. He was across as quick as a flash and picked it up. There was no fumble about that. And Brian Lara, to his credit, he was desperate. He didn't give it up. He had 277 runs on the board, but he still showed his desperation. He turned quickly, got back, but the throw, which bounced just in front of Ian Healy, it was a good take by the Australian wicketkeeper. It was a tough one to take. Took it, whipped off the bails, and umpire Terry Prue, no hesitation in giving out a diving Brian Lara. But a magnificent innings by the West Indian, by the youngster. Came to the wicket yesterday, and that's a long time ago now when it was 2 for 31, and he and Richie Richardson set about correcting the couple of the wickets of Haynes and Simmons that had fallen pretty quickly, and also the fact that Greg Matthews picked up that wicket yesterday with spin, and people were anticipating that spin might do it for Australia, but it was a great innings by him, showed great concentration, great stamina, and as I said just a few moments ago, kept the ball along the ground and treated us nearly to every shot that you could possibly wish. The only one that he didn't treat you to was probably the outfield hitting, which so often is a little bit indiscreet. But the shot that I remember mostly when Neville came on just a few moments ago was the magnificent on drive, and I will never forget the one at 195 off Shane Warne, pitched into the rough. Lara came down to the pitch of it. He wasn't quite to the pitch of the ball, but it hit that rough spun, and Lara went with the ball, hit it right along the ground, and it was a classical shot and a very difficult one to play, and I will never forget that one as long as I live. So to us here working on it, we've been fortunate enough to see a 277. I think the unfortunate thing, Neville, is, as you mentioned, that there probably wasn't a 30 or 40 or a 50,000 crowd here at the SCG to see that magnificent display of exhibition and great batting by Brian Lara.
An extraordinary display of officiousness by umpires Prue and Hare has ended play 50 minutes early on the fourth day of the third test because of bad light, virtually killing any slim chance of a result in the match. It was a sad end to a glorious day on which Brian Lara made 277, the highest ever test score in Australia-West Indies matches and the second highest by a player of any country on the Sydney Cricket Ground. Lara and Richardson continued on their record-breaking way when play finally started at 12:30 following persistent drizzling rain this morning. That added 293 when the second new ball brought about the demise of Richardson, hooking Hughes straight to Warne at long leg. Arthurton helped Lara at another 124 before edging Matthews to keeper Healy, but Lara's progress was inexorable. He appeared set for a triple century and capable of giving the West Indies a 200-run lead by lunch tomorrow when he was dismissed in perhaps the only way possible. He pushed Matthews to short cover, set off for a run and was sent back by Hooper. Martin's throw beat Lara, who was run out. Thereafter, progress was slow until the umpires brought it to a premature halt. So the details of the day, the West Indies resuming at 2 for 248. Lost Richardson, caught Warne, bowled Hughes for 109. Arthurton caught Healy, bowled Matthews 47. Lara run out 277. The runs coming from 366 balls in 475 minutes, and he hit 38 fours. Hooper remained not out 7, Adams not out 5, 18 extras at the close, 5 for 488. McDermott 1 for 99, Hughes 1 for 59, Matthews 2 for 128 from 43 overs, Warne none for 97 from 32, Steve Waugh none for 43, Mark Waugh none for 10, and Border none for 41. So the West Indies 5 for 488, still 15 runs behind the Australian score with a day to play, and the match now certain to end in a draw.
Matthews is in and Adams goes down the track on drive. Nice looking shot. This will run a long way to the straight boundary. I think it goes there now, and 4 good looking runs to Jimmy Adams. It's so nice to see the feet being used to the spinner. And that will certainly surprise matches a little bit, because Adams was out of the block very, very quickly indeed. Lovely shot as he goes into double figures and brings up the West Indies 500. 502 for 5. Adams 13. Hooper is 12. What a nice shot.
It was, and great use of the feet. But another player, as you mentioned, goes into double figures, and poor old Phil Simmons and Damien Martin still the only players yet to get into double figures in this match.
Not much change in the field as Warren goes in and tosses. Oof. And he beats him with a beauty. What a good ball. And Healy's jumping around down there.
Saying he's bowled.
He's saying he's out bowled, is he?
Well,
Healy seems to think he was bowled. Now that
the umpires are consulting.
The umpires are going to consult. That pitched about leg. Healy obviously thinks it's hit the off stump. The bail is off. Now, this will be interesting. Once more, we've got Healy involved in a potential decision for the umpires to dwell upon.
Umpires don't know, you see.
Well, the umpire at the bowler's end's the one who would have seen the bail fall, surely. He's in line. The man at square leg, he may have picked something up at the last moment. There are more replays going up on the screen here, as Hooper received a very good ball. It was taken by Healy.
He's given him out.
And he has given him out bowled. So it must have just flicked the off stump. Now, that'll be very interesting to know what the umpires actually saw, or whether they made a deduction from the chain of events that he had been out bowled, because Healy clearly hadn't knocked the bail off in their view. It had just flicked, just brushed that off stump, and the bail has fallen. A late fall of the bail, and Hooper has been finally given out, bowled Warren for 21. It was a big leg break too, and he's on his way back. That's the first wicket of the day, and the West Indies are 6 for 537.
Yeah, once again is a case where really what you should do is use the replays that they can see in the stands for run-outs, for stumpings, and for things like that. I don't know. I can only see a replay a long way away, and simply I can't tell. But there are replays up here. There should be a third umpire up here watching the replays and making decisions of that sort. I don't think the square leg umpire could have seen much, but I suppose he would have seen where the bail fell. And it can only have been circumstantial evidence. Shane Warne was not congratulating himself. Hooper was staying where he was, and it all looked a bit strange. But Ian Healy was the closest to it. He'll have known what happened. I haven't seen the replay and can't comment except to say that it was a magnificent bit of bowling.
Grandstand Rugby League brings you all the action.
O'Sullivan to Dylan Edwards, through again, he's going to score!
Every big moment across a massive season.
It's hammer time for the Dolphins!
That was amazing footwork, brilliant.
The latest news and expert opinion on everything Rugby League.
We're loving Rugby League in 2023.
Grandstand Rugby League. Find us on your radio, ABC Sport Digital, and on the ABC Listen app.
That pass was pretty, it had lipstick on it.
ABC Sport. ABC Sport.
Hello, I'm Ned Hall, and you're listening to the third test of the 1992-93 series between Australia and the West Indies. This match being played at the SCG. Big scoring from both sides in their first innings, and we can listen now to the West Indies' second innings to the close of the match and the post-match interviews.
Jimmy Adams, another impressive knock. Now he's on 49. And Warren goes in again. Is this his half century? He hits it down to long off. Takes one. Thinks about the second. Will take that. So two takes him from 49 to 51. And whilst this innings, I suppose, will always be remembered as the innings of Brian Lara with his 277, Jimmy Adams gives us another reminder of his growing talents as a test player. He's 51, Murray 8. It's 6 for 558.
And that was a fine 50 by Jimmy Adams. Very steady, very solid. I think he plays the spinners just about as well as anyone in the West Indies team. He didn't have any trouble with the wrong-un. He picked that very easily in that particular over. He's solid. He's timed the ball well. And you'd have to say a very competent test 50. And certainly for a man who's coming in at number 7, it was a very good innings. And he's a man we may see up the order at some stage in the next few years.
Yes, that was the slower one, the leg spinner. I don't know if Junior Murray has seen that one before, but just played it defensively away on the off stump. But once he'd completed the shot, then he had a look out towards square leg. And I would think that if Merv sent another one in like that, it might be pulled away. But Merv is always trying something.
A lot of the Australian fieldsmen out there wearing their their shades this afternoon as Hughes arrives, pitching up, and he beats him. Is he caught behind? He's out. Got an outside edge as he went to drive. It just flicked the edge. Healy went up, and so did Terry Prue's finger. And Junior Murray has been caught by Healy from the bowling of Hughes for 11. And the West Indies lose their 7th wicket for a mere 573.
Yes, well, that third new ball immediately bringing results for Merv Hughes. And Junior Murray, who hasn't been all that impressive in this innings, he had a good game with the gloves, picking up 4 catches. But this morning, you usually find that wicketkeepers play spin quite well because they know wrong and which way it's going to go and which way the leg is going to go. But this morning, it was quite evident that Junior Murray really didn't know which way the ball was going out of the spinners. And but he struggled through till lunchtime, but he wasn't able to struggle through from that Merv Hughes delivery. Went for the big drive. I wasn't quite sure, Jim, whether it was an outside or the inside edge. It looked like it might have been the outside edge at the end. But a little bit of movement there off the bowling of Hughes. It must have been a fairly healthy edge because Ian Healy at the end, it was just a formality appeal by him. He just threw it into the air. No running towards the bowler or that. And even Big Murphy just kept going down the wicket. So it must have been so obvious and a thick edge through to Ian Healy. And good breakthrough by the Australians. And they'd be, the bowlers in particular, be looking to wrap up this innings as quickly as they possibly can now.
Hughes comes in and bowls. It's driven beautifully through the covers by Jimmy Adams. It's running away towards the boundary. Boone's getting close to it. It's close to the fence. He gets his boot to it, stops it, picks it up. They've taken 3. They think of 4. They're on their way for the 4th. The throw comes in. There'll be a run out. He's run out on the 4th. Bishop run out by a couple of yards on the 4th. Oh, well, they took the risk. They took on David Boone's arm from deep extra cover. And he's run Bishop out on the 4th. And that's 8 for 577. And has he closed? No, he hasn't closed. They're wandering off towards the gate, some of them. I think they're wandering over towards David Boone, who probably, for the first time in many, many years, certainly I would say for the first time in a test match, has caused a run out on the 4th run.
How lucky we are, Jim, that Neville Oliver's not in here at the moment because he would be going off his head with his hero. Getting a run out. We've seen Bernie take some brilliant catches, and of course we know what he can do with the bat, but then the little legs waddled after that one. In fact, it had been yesterday, you could have given up the chase because it would have been 4 runs off the bat of Lara's, but it was hit between cover and mid-off, and David Byrne set after it and kicked it back with the foot. But as he had the ball in his hand, Bishop was just turning down the other end, and I felt certain he also turned blind, then took off, and Boone's throw bounced. Merv Hughes was right over the stumps, bounced in front of Hughes, and he would have been out by a couple of metres, and a bad piece of play by Ian Bishop. Then there was no way known could he get back for the 4th one, because he really didn't know, didn't keep his eye on the ball. He didn't know where it was, and he just thought he had beat the throw, and it was a good piece of cricket. In fact, even looking at the replay on the scoreboard now, David Boone just seemed to take his time and nonchalantly threw it in, thinking they weren't going to go through for the 4th, and he was out by a couple of metres, and that certainly was the easiest decision that umpire Terry Prue has had in this match.
He waits for Mark Waugh once more. He steps away, and what's he done with this? He's hit it in the air, and he's been caught at mid-wicket, and he's not happy with himself as he made a mess of that. Waugh digging it in short, Ambrose stepping away. It was head height, and he made the most unusual attempt to swat the ball. Lifted it in the air out to mid-wicket. Martin running back, had to jump and take it above head height, but managed to cling to it. And the West Indies have lost their 9th wicket at 603, with Ambrose caught Martin, bowled Mark Waugh for 16. Adams is not out 74, 9 for 603, and the scoreboard replay reveals that ball, which must have landed just forward of Mark Waugh's foot, bounced even higher than Curtly Ambrose's head, which, of course, as you know, is at a very great height. And Ambrose managed to get his bat to it and hit Martin that catch.
Yes, did well, but cagey characters, these Waugh fellows, and the previous ball was the slower one outside off stump, which Ambrose just nudged down to 3rd man, picked up 3 runs, and you could see Mark Waugh thinking as he went back, what can I try against this fellow? It's no use pitching it up there because he's just going to try and slog your way over on that offside, so I'll try the short one, and it was short, and as Tim Lane mentioned, it was certainly in his half of the pitch. Got up around about 7 foot high, and Curtly Ambrose in a tennis smash type shot just holed out probably only half hit it. Lucky didn't hit it any harder because it might have taken Greg Matthews with him. But a good catch in the end by Matthews, just above the head. But it was coming to him not at a tremendous rate, but came quite quickly. But they're difficult to take, those ones.
8 for 597, and the West Indies need 20 more for their highest score against Australia. 616, as I said, in Adelaide in 68-9. You'd remember that match pretty well.
I certainly do. Particularly Gary Sobers, he tore us apart. But also, I think each day over there, Tim, was something like 104, 105 and 106. It was hot.
War bowls to Ambrose, and he swings unmercifully and lifts it over cover without quite getting hold of it. Out towards the boundary it goes. Steve Waugh in chase, can't quite get to it, and the 600 is on the board. And you don't see too many of them in Test cricket, so well done West Indies. 8 for 601. Ambrose is 14, Adams 74.
And well slogged then by Curtly Ambrose and the crowd here. Not too many of them would have seen a 600 in Test cricket, or any cricket for that matter, but hard to bowl to when he's playing like this.
Hughes bowls to Walsh, who shapes to play. Is he out caught behind? Yes, he is. So the West Indies are all out for 606. And they fall 10 short of their highest score against Australia. 606 all out. Walsh, the last man out, caught Healy, bowled Hughes for a duck. And Jimmy Adams falls 2 runs short of his highest score in Test cricket. He remains 77 not out. Walsh out for a duck, and the West Indies all out 606, lead on the first innings by 103.
Thanks, Pete. The West Indies went into this match with just the 3 fast bowlers. Understandable, I suppose, given the expectation of spin here at the SCG, but the same thing happened in Melbourne, and that does beg the question, is the era of all West Indian pace behind us? Well, who better to consult than one of the greats, Michael Holding. Michael, just 3 fast bowlers for this match and the last. Does that mean that the era is coming to an end?
No, I don't think so. I think it was definitely on the cards that they wouldn't play more than 3 fast bowlers here in Sydney. As for the test match at the MCG, I don't think it was a plan to go into that test match with 3 fast bowlers. I think they had some internal problems with the selection of the 4th fast bowler. Anderson Cummings had a problem. He had a slight back strain. Benjamin apparently had a niggling injury, and Patrick Patterson hadn't bowled particularly well in Brisbane, and he didn't get a chance to bowl Bendigo in the lead-up match to the MCG test match. So they figured, well, they'd play the 3 fast bowlers that were in form and strengthen the batting instead of risking playing 4 fast bowlers with the batting a little bit brittle. But it didn't quite work out the way they were expecting, but I think that was the general plan for the MCG. Here at the SCG, I think they expected the wicket to take a bit more spin, and so they decided to go in with 3 fast bowlers. But I don't think that is a definite plan for this current crop of West Indies teams. I think from here on, at Adelaide and Perth, you just more than likely will see them go back to 4 fast bowlers.
So just a brief aberration as far as you're concerned, but by the same token, in the decade or so when you were playing, it wouldn't have happened too often, would it?
No, I can't remember going into a test match with 3 fast bowlers. Not after 1978 at any rate, not after we came back from World Series cricket, when we joined the full-fledged West Indies team again in 79-80 tour of Australia here. I can't ever remember us having a test match with 3 fast bowlers between perhaps 79-80 and about 88-89.
I think it did actually happen here. The last time you were here, you went in with Roger Harper, just the 3 quicks and Roger Harper, and I think Viv also providing some spin. So it may have happened that time in Sydney, but not very often.
Yes, that was 88-89. Yes, I thought it didn't happen before 89, but it was the series of 88-89. Yes, that's when Viv decided to take Roger Harper into this test match here as a spinner. It didn't quite work either. So we have experimented a lot in the West Indies with spinners. People say that we don't play spinners and we keep on bombarding the batsmen with fast bowling, but it's not because we want to do that. It's because we really haven't got a choice. We have experimented with spinners and they haven't worked. If you go way back to 1976, when we played a test match against India in Trinidad, which was supposed to be a spinner's paradise, we played 3 spinners in that test match. We set India 404 runs to win in the last innings, and they made it for a loss of about 3 wickets, and one of them was run out. The spinners didn't work, and so Clive decided then that he would play his best bowlers, and the best bowlers have been fast bowlers. There have been a few spinners that have been tried. Ranjit Nanan played a test match in Pakistan. He did reasonably well, but nothing to write home about. Albert Padmore came into the team, played a couple of games, didn't do too much. There was Derek Parry. There was, of course, Roger Harper. So we have tried spinners, but they have not been doing the job expected of them. So we have always resorted back to the 4 fast bowlers who have been doing the job.
Richie Richardson was pretty outspoken at the start of this series about the 90 over a day restriction or requirement. I'm wondering, is that going to play a part in the selection of the teams? You're suggesting for the next couple of tests it will be back to the 4 fast bowlers, but it does pose some sort of problem, doesn't it?
Yes, it does pose a problem, but if you remember the test match in Brisbane, they played the 4 fast bowlers there. They played Carl Hooper to bowls off spin, and they were well within the 90 overs per day regulation. I think they were bowled about 6 overs more than was necessary. So I think if they play the 4 fast bowlers and Carl Hooper, they won't have any problems, because Hooper certainly will bowl quite a few overs.
Well, they say in the West Indies everyone wants to be a fast bowler. I suppose after yesterday, everyone will want to bat like Brian Lara. It wasn't a bad knock, was it?
It was an excellent knock. You know, it's one of the best knocks I've ever seen at test cricket level. If you take into consideration the fact that we had just lost the previous test match at the MCG, and we had lost the toss here at the SCG. Australia had made 503 runs, and when Lara went to the wicket, we were in dire straits. And for him to come out and play an innings like that, I think it was far beyond his age, really.
Will he captain the West Indies one day?
There are thoughts about that. I think he was given the Trinidad captaincy a few years ago with that in mind, that one day he would eventually captain the West Indies. I don't think it is out of the realms of the possibility of him captaining the West Indies, but I don't think it's in the immediate future. Richie Richardson is still a young man. He's a batsman. He has lots of years in front of him, and I think if Brian Lara is going to captain the West Indies team, he has a few years to wait.
And finally, some of the greats, apart from yourself, are out here as far as the West Indies are concerned. Wes Hall, Sir Garfield Sobers, Gordon Greenwich promoting Barbados. It must be a great help to the West Indies team, particularly the young players like Keith Arthurton and also Jimmy Adams and Brian Lara, to have those sort of players around the place.
Before I answer that, I'm not trying to be modest, but I wouldn't consider myself to be one of the West Indies greats. You know, there have been a lot of great fast bowlers from the West Indies. I did reasonably well for the West Indies, but I didn't do as well as, say, Malcolm Marshall and Wesley Hall in his time, who didn't have the support that we guys had in our time. But I think it is good that we have, as you say, the greats like Gary Sobers and Rohan Kanai, Gordon Greenwich out here, that can always go into the dressing room and have a chat with the guys. If they're having any problems, they can approach them. You know, Gary Sobers was a great all-rounder. He had the attributes of every aspect of the game. He knew all about catching, bowling, fielding, whatever. Gordon Greenwich was a great batsman. Joel Garner is here in Australia as well. You know, there are different guys from different aspects of the game that they can talk to, and I think it's good.
Okay, play's just about to restart, so we better leave it there. I hope you enjoy the rest of the tour.
I am enjoying it, and I think I will enjoy the rest of the tour, especially if West Indies win the next test in Adelaide.
Don't you worry, the light will be the problem. They'll go off for sure. I think the light's almost as bad as it was last night.
Well, last night I had my regulation glasses on, Jim. Today I've got my prescription sunglasses, so it looks a bit darker through these glasses at present.
Well, they've got some pretty rapid bowlers on at the moment. Arthurton and Adams bowling. So the umpires may think that the batsmen are in some danger, as they obviously did last night when they went off prematurely. Let's hope not. None for 89. We want to see just a little bit to make us jolly and happy.
Well, the crowd hasn't left. I haven't seen anyone sneaking out. They're still here.
There's still 5,000 here. And that's good too, just to give the final stages of this match some atmosphere, even though it's clearly been petering out into a draw for most of the day. Now, Keith Arthurton around the wicket bowls to David Boone, who stabs it away towards short extra cover. None for 89. Taylor 41. Boone 40. So this match is going to finish soon, either because of time or rain or light or everything. And a chop by Boone brings in more runs here as he plays a lovely back cut, and it's going down to third man for 4. Delightful stroke from David Boone as he leant back and chopped that ball away from Keith Arthurton, who's bowling at a briskish pace from his short approach. And Boone goes to 44 in sight of yet another half-century in this series, having made 76 in the first innings here. None for 93. And a century partnership in the offing here for these two players. Keith Arthurton bowling his left arm straightish breaks around the wicket, comes into Boone. Boone goes back and hits it firmly away with that broad bat of his, and it's knocked down by Hooper out there in the covers.
He bowls with good pace, Keith Arthurton. I would have imagined that with absolutely nothing riding on this game at present, that he could throw a few up and see if he could turn a few and maybe deceive David Boone in flight.
Arthurton bowls and Boone's forward, and he plays it out on the offside past Adams and away to Hooper once more. So he doesn't toss them up too often, does he? He tends to whistle them through. I don't know how much spin he tries to get on the ball when he does toss it a bit high. Let's see. He comes in here. That's quick, and it's chopped down the gully. There's another run there for them as it's picked up by Courtney Walsh down there at backward point. The score goes to 94, Boone 45 and Taylor 41. The West Indies all out today for 606, and Australia had a chance of really curtailing that innings from the very first ball of the day when Adams hit a sharp catch back to McDermott, but he couldn't hold on to it, and Adams had a life and ended up being 77 not out when they were all out for 606. Taylor comes forward to Arthurton, drives to mid-wicket, and there's no run. So we saw Hooper bowled by Warren for 21, one that spun and just flicked the off stump. Murray caught Healy bowled Hughes 11. Bishop run out, taking on David Boone's arm. On the fourth, he made one. Ambrose caught Martin bowled Mark Waugh 16, and Walsh caught Healy bowled Hughes 0. Hughes took the figures, 3 for 76. It's none for 94.
And I think Merv Hughes would have been pretty happy with getting 3 for 76 off so few overs. Came on with the third new ball and picked up a couple. And maybe there was a couple of bowlers there who deserved a fraction more than that. I'm not taking anything away from Mervyn, who's always a 100% trier. I think Shane Warne and Greg Matthews, who wheeled down a monstrous number of overs, would like to have a couple of those scalps.
And David Boone is obviously settling in for a few more minutes at the crease because he's just had a change of gloves brought out to him by Damien Martin, and he's padding away down there under his baggy green cap as Jimmy Adams around the wicket comes up to him, and he leans forward and pats it straight back down the onside. The sun breaks through some of this threatening cloud as we get near the end of this test match. Teams moving on to Brisbane. West Indies Pakistan on Saturday, West Indies Australia on Sunday. Boone on the back foot playing it down the offside of the pitch. So without being too wise about it, do you think there'll be many changes in the Australian team? You probably already know who's in it for the one day.
No, I haven't seen the team.
You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh, good. Well, we can talk about it for a moment with Boone stabbing forward. The team will be named at the end of the game. Would you expect many changes from the lineup that appeared in the last Aspro games?
I think Alan Border may be back. That's
Fair
a pretty
chance.
obvious one, yeah.
Adams bowls down the leg side, and Boone helps himself to a few more. He sends it away towards the boundary down there. They've taken 2, and they'll turn now for a third, and that's none for 97. And Boone moves along to 48. Yes, so Border comes back. I'll pick the same.
Well, I think Shane Warne will be out. It's a pretty obvious one. I think Epstein Jones will be back in the 12. Who else have we got here? Boone Taylor opening the batting. S. War, M. War. Border
Jones
back in. Maybe Jones in there. Maybe Damien Martin might be out. They'll still have a spinner. Greg Matthews, Healy, maybe Merv Hughes.
Swept away by Taylor here behind square off Adams for 1, and they'll come back for a second. That's none for 99 up there for Australia.
As maybe Merv Hughes might miss out, as he wasn't in the last couple of one-day sides. He's bowled pretty well in the test matches.
He has. Mark Taylor's just up on the board now as the collector of 3,000 test runs. So we've had Boone go past 5,000 and Taylor 3,000 in this partnership. Adams goes in again, bowls to Taylor. Taylor's forward and plays it out on the offside. I often think Merv's a bit hard done by with the one days. He often bowls quite well in them.
Yeah, I think he's suffering a bit from about 2 seasons ago where he didn't bowl too well in the one days, and he got a bit into leg stump, and he was a little bit expensive. And Mike Whitney has come into the one-day team in the last season or so and bowled very, very well. He did a great job in the West Indies when Australia won the one-day series. He's done well this year, and perhaps that would be the spot that Merv might take, but Mike Whitney's been bowling just too well. Normally the left-handers aren't really favoured for the one-dayers because they give the extra angle that's attacking when you're playing first-class cricket, but it concedes runs when you're playing one-day cricket as the ball goes away from the right-handers mostly, and lots of runs are scored down to third man and to point in that area. So that's why Merv's missing out at present. Craig McDermott will be in the team. Maybe Paul Rifle had a couple of games and perhaps he'll be back in the team. Have I got 12 yet? I haven't been counting.
No, I think you're one short. Well, if you're in your team, if you were going to leave out Martin, Hughes and Warne,
you've got Border back in. I've got Rifle in.
Here comes Arthurton, and it's stabbed away by Boone at his feet, and there's no run.
I'm just trying to think of the last game. Tim May was in the squad, wasn't he? They had 2 off spinners, which I thought was a little unusual, having two off spinners.
Arthurton bowls again to Boone, and Boone gets a Yorker from Arthurton and digs it out on the offside. I just wonder if they're going to continue to look at May with the 4th test in mind.
Well, I don't think they want him playing one-day cricket, would they? They perhaps want him in first-class cricket if that was the case. Although I thought he bowled pretty well in the one-day as he turned a few over in Adelaide.
Another quicker ball from Arthurton, and Boone's right behind it. He's not letting himself go in carnival fashion here. He's just playing for keeps all the way through, with about 15 minutes to go before they could take an early finish if they want to. None for 99. There's a cloud all about, but some sunshine here. As Boone's back, and he's cutting and missing close to the off stump too. That one's skidding through on him. He was trying to help himself to another boundary down there, and the ball just missed his bat as he chopped at it outside the off stump. It kept a bit low. Arthurton bowls, and Boone drives down towards mid-on and takes off for a single. He's 49, and that's the 100 partnership. The 100 partnership. A wonderful shot for the 100 partnership as he leant into the on drive, and he moves to 49. None for 100 then. Taylor and Boone getting a little bit of batting practice here this afternoon, maybe improving the averages a little on the way. And now what's happening down there? Boone and Arthurton exchanging a pleasant greeting. Yeah, seems very friendly. That's looking at Arthurton's expression. He had a huge grin. Arthurton bowls to Taylor. Taylor's forward and plays it down on the onside, and that's the end of the over from Keith Arthurton. So it's none for 100, with Taylor 43 and Boone there on 49. And here comes the 12th man, Mike Whitney, Mr. Testimonial, and he's bringing some more batting gloves out to the middle.
He's looking pretty fresh, Mike Whitney. I don't think he's been suffering too much from the 5 days of this test match, or the 3:30 finish to his testimonial night. And I just wonder, he's obviously brought out a message. I don't think anyone wanted batting gloves, and just had a quick word to the guys whether they should come up at 5:30 or perhaps stay on the field.
Mark Taylor's response to whatever was said was to burst into a chuckle. So could be some games being played down in the dressing room. The gloves were of no importance. They were just an excuse to come out and give the message. So I don't know, are they going to bat until 6 o'clock?
Oh, that'd be popular, wouldn't it?
Yes. None for 100 at the moment.
The way the rain's looking over there, Jim, I don't know about 6 o'clock. It's back again, that storm.
As Boone just pushes away and it goes out into the covers. Well, it's around, isn't it? But whether or not we get it here in the next half hour or so remains to be seen. We mightn't.
It might save Peter Leroy putting the hose on the pitch or the whole square at the close of this game.
Adams goes up again and Boone's forward and plays it out on the offside. Well, if it rained now, he'd have to put the covers on the pitch, wouldn't he, in theory?
Yeah.
I wonder if he'd do that. Surely they could abandon it.
They might get a wet wicket and Australia bowled out in 7 overs.
Adams bowls down the pitch. Comes Boone and plays back up on the offside.
Just kind of playing the options, you know, like a good captain. While since we've had a sticky dog here at the SCG, I would have thought, for a test match.
In Australia, not yet in front. They're still 3 behind. and back goes Byrne and plays it down towards mid-wicket. We had a bit of a sticky dog in that one day, didn't we?
Well, it wasn't that sticky by the time they started. It was about an hour before they started, but it was actually quite firm by the time the game got underway. It seemed around. It gave the bowlers some help, okay, but I wouldn't exactly call it a sticky.
Up goes Adams, driven by Byrne and driven down the ground for 4 to bring up his 50. David Byrne, another half-century here. And a beautiful stroke too. He came down the pitch and hit it straight down the ground on the onside. 76 in the first innings. He's now 53 not out. And Byrne's 50 coming in pretty good time too, with 139 balls, is it? 149 minutes. And Adams goes up again and Byrne's forward and plays it on the offside. 119 deliveries for his 50 and 149 minutes. So, well, 2.5 hours batting. It's been another solid effort as he picks up a single to keep the strike at none for 105 at the end of the over.
Well, the 5,000 or so who still remain here, very few people left the ground. They gave David Byrne a great reception for that 50. Perhaps now they're waiting around for Mark Taylor to do likewise. He's got 7 runs to go. But the crowd's certainly enjoying this last flourish to the Test match. And I'm sure David Byrne enjoyed making that 50 as well. He's got a great record here at the SCG. 70-odd in the first innings. Another 50 in the second. And Mark Taylor wouldn't have been happy with David Byrne either, because the last ball of the over, he hit it up the mid-off and took a pretty quick single to keep the strike. I'm sure Tails would like to be there with a chance to bring up his 50 before we finish with play here. It can finish at 5:30, which is 12 minutes away, or it may be curtailed by rain.
Yes, that cloud's getting closer. Maybe the storm will arrive shortly. Here comes Arthurton. Byrne's almost caught behind as he tries to chop away towards third man. It's a shot that brings him some runs, but twice he's missed with it in the last couple of balls he's faced from Keith Arthurton, who's whirring away down at that far end. Here he comes again, tossing higher, a full toss, driven to mid-on. And it goes quickly down there. There's a fumble, but they don't take a run, as it's going to be eventually picked up by Desi Hayes.
He's probably maybe a bit car sick is why he fell over. Motion sickness.
Giddy after that lap of honour for Brian Lara. During the drinks break, we saw Haynes drive Lara around the square in the golf buggy. Here comes Byrne, pushing down the line to Arthurton, but he doesn't score as it's picked up by Simmons out there at mid-wicket. So none for 105, and a couple of overs away from the end of this game. Here's Arthurton again, bowls to Byrne. Byrne's forward, plays it away to a bat pad out on the offside. So they play a series of one-day matches, culminating in the finals next weekend, or the weekend after next, and then the Test match in Adelaide. And Byrne once more plays it firmly down the offside of the pitch. And what's Australia's best bet down there in the way they select their attack to win the Test match in Adelaide? Which way would you go?
Well, you always like to have a look at the pitch beforehand, James, but I don't think we'll see much change in personnel for the Adelaide match.
Back goes Byrne, hits hard, through point, past Walsh, away towards the boundary. Walsh is after it, but it's going to beat him into the fence for another 4. Byrne 58, and that's none for 109 at the end of the over. And Henry, well, it's been a good game here in parts. Memorable for Brian Lara's 277. I think that will live in all our memories for a long, long time to come. Tim Lane is going to come in and bowl the first of the last couple of balls of the Test match, and he's going to have the privilege of calling a devastating spell from the look of it to be bowled by the king of Trinidad, Brian Lara.
Yes, Brian Lara, after that fantastic performance with the bat, he'd just like to pick up a wicket here. I'll just see if I can get Laurel Curtin to tell me if he's actually bowled in a Test match before, Brian Lara. It's probably an interesting question. But with the way he bowled, perhaps he could just sneak in for a wicket here. And Mark Taylor, on the other hand, will be looking for a couple of friendly half volleys or a long hop just to bring up his 50. And what is Brian Lara going to bowl? It's certainly going to be off a short run, the keeper standing up, so it won't be extreme pace. He looks like a couple of leggies as he bowls the ball across to Carl Hooper. So we could have another wrist spinner in the game.
Well, I've got a little profile on him here which says he's an LHB which is a left-hand bat. We know that. We've seen enough of him in the last few days. And an LBG. I'm not sure what an LBG is, but I assume it's a leg break bowler. And he bowls one to Taylor, and he almost has him. No, he doesn't almost have him stumped. Taylor swings it down to square leg. I thought he'd missed for a moment. The ball was so wide outside the leg stump. Taylor gets himself a run and moves up to 44.
LBG, leg breaks and googlies?
Maybe.
The first one was a leg break, I can tell you that.
It was also a long hop.
I landed halfway down the pitch and spun from the off to the leg.
That was
to the left-hander.
A WLH, a wide long hop.
Okay, Mark Taylor's just had a few problems with it too. He might be able to put that way a bit better, but not to be.
In comes Lara. I've got the binoculars on him, and that is very, very short and extremely wide. And umpire Hare, in deference to the magnificent innings he played, perhaps as much as anything else, doesn't call it a wide. I don't know whether David Boone could have reached it with two bats.
In fact, it just bounced for the second time past the popping crease, because I think it actually is illegal to bowl a delivery that bounces twice on the pitch these days. It's a part of the underarm business, so almost a no ball.
He comes in again and bowls. Now Boone dances down and he drives a ball that he was able to get to on the full, and they take a run up to long on. I'll say this for that second ball, Henry. It did spin.
It spun, particularly on the second bounce. I thought it spun a little bit more on the second bounce.
Now, the left-hander has strike and the field has to change over again. None for 111. What do you do for the Nelson? Does that feed off the floor as well?
It doesn't affect Australians.
Lara to Taylor. Oh, it's a run.
It's a run.
And it's dabbed down to third man. As Taylor picked it up just before it bounced a second time, and they take one run. And one gets the impression that the Prince of Trinidad hasn't been practising his leg breaks to any great extent in the nets.
Well, LBG, we've seen the leg break in the googly so far, and it spun a long way, and I don't think Mark Taylor picked that one.
He didn't.
He was looking to pull it away through mid-wicket, and it turned away, went the other direction. He just managed to dabble it away back with a point for a single.
He'll be relieved to be at the non-striker's end, completely deceived by the wrong. And Lara bowls the leg break to Boone, who clips it away to Arthurton out in the covers. And there's no run. None for 112. Lara in his first over. What surprises has he got in store now? Now Boone withdraws. Obviously he's a little tense. He goes down over his bat again. In comes Lara. Well pitched leg break. Tucked around the corner by Boone. Junior Murray runs out to square leg and fields. And that was a pretty useful ball, the last one. The end of the over, and Lara waves his cap to the crowd as he takes it from umpire Hare and just rehearses his action. And I think he might feel he was starting to get it right at the end of the over, and he'll be looking forward to a second over, and he might just get one before this match ends. 112 for no wicket Australia. Boone on 59 and Taylor 45.
Well, it was a promising action. Technically, it looks pretty good. He gets the left arm nice and high, side on, and he spins him a long way. He's obviously getting a lot of work on the ball. He's got a wrong one. We saw that quite obviously. Mark Taylor might be looking for that in future. And you just get the feeling if he did work on those leg breaks, he could be quite a useful bowler, probably much in the vein of what Keith Stackpole was, occasional leg break bowler. Bob Simpson, the Australian coach, bowled some leg breaks and took over 50 test wickets. Ian Chappell, Greg Chappell bowled some leg breaks in test cricket and took some wickets. So it's always handy if you're a batsman who just bowls a few spinners.
Now, Henry, this is going to be a special treat because Richie Richardson has come into the attack and he's bowling in the hat. So he's going to have to bowl with a fairly low arm action, lest he slice into the inside of his arm or else knock the hat off his head. He comes in and bowls to Taylor. It's orthodox spin from the Randwick end. And the first ball outside the off stump, Taylor lets it go.
Well, as a batsman, I'd have to complain because that hat's red. The ball might come straight out of that.
And he's pretty quick through the air. He bowls wide of the off stump. He can't entice Taylor to play a stroke at that. Taylor with his sights on the 50. He's only got a couple of overs in which to score it. He's on 45. Richardson in again from the Randwick end. Taylor forward, pushing back to the bowler who fields. He's dropped immediately into a length.
These are the bowlers you call scary bowlers. You're absolutely scared to death you're going to get out to them. They're going to bowl a long hop that's so long you just hit it up in the air or something.
And never be allowed to forget it. Richardson again, wide and short. Taylor cracks it out through the covers. Beautifully fielded, though, by Phil Simmons, who's a big man and had a long way to get down, but he got down to his right and just managed to stop it and kept the scoring to 1. So Taylor is 46. And the score 113 without loss. Richardson has bowled in Test cricket, if you were wondering. In fact, prior to this, he'd bowled 60 balls and had figures of none for 14, so he's an economical bowler. He's a hard man to get away. There's only been 1 run scored from, I think, 4 deliveries in this first over. Now he's coming in and bowling to Boone, and Boone tucks him away down to short, fine leg. They take 1, Boone's looking for the second, and he can take it as Ambrose runs around and fields. So Boone is 61. And his plundering of international attacks on the Sydney cricket ground goes on and on. Australia, no wicket for 115. The scoreboard clock tells us it's 5:26, and the captains have the option of calling it off at 5:30, and one would expect that they certainly will. Richardson comes in and bowls to Boone short, down the leg side again. He tucks it away to fine leg once more, just takes the 1 this time. Keen to get the strike against Lara, perhaps to protect Taylor from Lara, because the left-hander is having difficulty picking his wrong. That's the end of the over, and it cost Richardson 4 runs. So by his standards, a rather expensive over, in that 10 overs in his Test career had previously only cost him 14 runs. So in fact it was quite an extravagant over, really. None for 116, Boone 62, Taylor 46. It's now 5:27. It's going to be Lara again, and this could be the last over of the Test match. Lara's Test match, and appropriate that he bowl the last over.
Yes, it is very appropriate that Brian Lara administer the last rites. And I've just been handed the man of the match. Unfortunately, I don't think it's the official man of the match. Brian Lara would be very disappointed at this judgment, I would have thought. I don't think there'll be any prizes for guessing who's going to get the official man of the match award, though. It's the bowler.
Now, Lara starts his second over. He bowls a well-flighted leg break, but Boone dances down and makes it a full toss. He forces to long on, and they take a run. So Taylor will have a chance to complete his 50 here, as Boone advances to 64, and the score up to 117. Boone 63. I anticipated the board had beaten me. Boone 63, none for 117, and probably 5 balls left in the Test. Taylor has struck. Lara bowls. It's well pitched, and Taylor treats it with the respect that it deserves, stretching forward from the crease and pushing out on the offside. That was a useful looking delivery, nicely flighted.
I think that was the wrong and pitched about off stump, and this time Mark Taylor picked it in the air.
Lara again, another wrong, and Taylor onto the back foot, cracks it forward of point, but not through. Straight out to Bishop. There's no run, and he mightn't reach his 50. 3 balls left in the over. Now for our relay stations, our broadcast will continue through until 6 o'clock, so we'll hold it for half an hour. Lara bowls. Taylor uses his feet, pushes back down the offside, but not past the bowler, who fielded tigerishly off his own bowling. And now he's coming around the wicket, so he's working on Taylor. He's really giving him the once over here. How many balls have we got left, Laurel? 2 to go. It's 5:29 according to the scoreboard clock, and there won't be time for another over before 5:30. Lara looking for his first Test wicket, comes in and bowls, and this is drivable, although it dropped a bit on Taylor, who looked to force it through the covers. He miscued, hit it gently out to Richardson, and there's no run. Lara's been watching Greg Matthews. He gives his hand a wipe in the turf as he walks back, and he comes in now and bowls, and Taylor's down looking for the drive. Again, might have been deceived a little in flight. Pushes out on the onside. That's the end of the over, and it's the end of the Test match. So the third Test in Sydney is a draw. The West Indies leading on the first innings by 103. And at the close, it's handshakes all round, and particularly for Brian Lara, whose towering innings of 277, the highest ever in Australia-West Indies Test matches, has dominated this match. At the close, Australia none for 117 in its second innings, with Boone not out 63 and Taylor not out 46. We'll go through the bowling figures in a little while. But a Test dominated almost as much by the pitch here in Sydney as by that epic innings by Brian Lara, because ultimately just far too many runs were scored to provide any chance of a result. Weather, of course, intervening too on a couple of days and making it impossible for us to even get close to an outcome in the match. And now the players head towards the members' stands, the batsmen over towards the junction of the members and the ladies' stand where the Australian rooms are. On the near side of the members' stand to us, around towards the Noble stand, the West Indies walk towards the gate, and they all stand back, and the applause is for Brian Lara, who raises his cap. And a fitting reception from the small crowd on this final day. Most of them, I would imagine, were here over the last couple of days because they're the real aficionados who came along today when the match was certainly going to be a draw. And they're people who no doubt greatly appreciated the batting they saw from Lara through those 2 wonderful days of cricket when he played an unforgettable innings, one of the truly great ones in the history of Test cricket. So ultimately it's Australia, 9 declared for 503 and 117 without loss, drawing with the West Indies all out in its first innings for 606. In the end, Australia 14 runs on with 10 wickets in hand, so honours well and truly even here. It's on to the World Series Cup now, and hostilities resume there in Brisbane at the weekend. The Test Series has a temporary hiatus, and then it's off to Adelaide over the last weekend in January for the 4th Test, and then the 5th in Perth. And the West Indies still very much in the hunt in their struggle to retain the Frank Worrell Trophy. They only need 1 win from those 2 matches to make it 1-1, and in that event, of course, they retain the trophy.
Bowler in, but I think we're ready for the press conference.
Yes, we are. So let's go down and join Alan Border, who is speaking with the assembled media.
Just the way that the game panned out was, the wicket was the winner.
You thought it would turn a lot more day 4, day 5?
Yeah, and have a little bit more bounce. Normally the wicket turns here and does offer a little bit of bounce, but there was a slow turn there, but it was only sort of half stump high and very hard to sort of beat the bat. So once decent sort of players stick their pads out to anything decent, and it was that slow off the wicket that you could make adjustments very quickly. So the spinners didn't play the role that everyone thought they would.
Looking back on the Test match, what are the best points for Australia you can pick up on?
Well, I think Stephen Moore's performance on day 1 was excellent. He was under a bit of fire, and he's answered the critics in the best possible way. The general batting I thought was pretty good. We worked our way into a very, very strong position and just struggled from that point. And I think day 3 was the killer for us because of the weather conditions. Once the ball went out in the outfield a few times, it was ridiculous. It got absolutely soaked through, and it was like bowling a cake of soap. And that just negated basically any chance we had. And then, of course, Lara playing the innings of his life didn't help at all. But that was just one of those games. We haven't had a result here for 4 years, but the cricket's been reasonable. This one's probably the hardest to cop, with only basically 2 innings completed. So,
how would you rate that Lara innings?
Well, it's got to be in the grand final as far as the best one I've seen. There's been other really good knocks, but someone to hit the ball so hard and so often in the gap on that sort of wicket, I just thought was just absolutely superb. It's quite good watching, I suppose, admitting it now. At the time, I didn't appreciate it as much, but for a bloke who's so young, yeah, super knocker.
Could the bowlers have bowled any better to him? You happy with the performance of your guys?
I suppose when a side gets 600, you always think that maybe he could have done a little bit better, but to be quite honest, the wicket was so good, and the batting, was just excellent. The bowlers toiled hard and didn't get rewards. So, like we made 500, so you just have to say the wicket was real good.
Looking into Adelaide now, what do you think about the bowling attack there? Possibly the same lineup, or?
It'll be a very similar lineup, whether we go in with another quickie. Wait and see what happens through these next few one-day games, and watch the Shield games closely and just see who's doing what, and have a look at the wicket and make the decision then.
The transition from the Test to the one-day, is how difficult is that going to be?
It's always tough, but probably this time of the year not quite as bad as earlier on in the year. But it's always, it takes a little while to get back into the one-day mode.
What about yourself? It's been a while since you played a one-day.
Yeah, well, I played 250, so I should be right.
What have you got planned for preparation over the next day or two?
We go up to Brisbane tomorrow, train Friday, train Saturday, play Sunday.
What about Ian Healy's hand? I'm led to believe he's got a problem with that, but intends to battle on with it.
Well, I haven't ever played with a wicketkeeper who hasn't got a problem with their hands. It's just occupational hazard, and I don't know what the big deal is. If you do a consensus of wicketkeepers who have ever wicket-kept, they'll tell you the same story. Very rarely are their hands not sore.
Just speaking of injuries, how's the hamstring yourself? Is it okay?
Oh, I still bother him a little bit, still stiff, but getting by all right.
That's Alan Border's press conference, and hopefully we might hear from Richie Richardson shortly. Tim Lane with Jeff Lawson in the ABC radio commentary position at the moment. And
for the West Indies as it turned out, but ruined by rain.
Well, even though it's a drawn match, I think there have been some exciting cricket, and I think the spectators enjoyed it. We enjoyed it, even though we would have liked to have a result and have a win, but this is how it went. Extremely happy for Brian Lara, the way he batted, the way he played, and also myself. I'm quite happy with my form, and also for our batting, which have been a bit inconsistent. So after this innings, I'm sure that our confidence are very high, and we've just got to take it from here onto the next Test match and look for a win there.
You were quoted this morning as describing Richie Richardson, Brian Lara's knock, as being the greatest you've ever seen. Do you stick by that?
Well, it's one of the best knocks that I've ever seen. Certainly, I would stick by that. Yeah.
Do you feel that your team took the points decision from this match?
Well, I wouldn't want to go by that, really. I mean, even though we scored 600 and they scored 500, I mean, that's not a hell of a difference, and I don't think that would have any great effect on the morals of either team. It's a very flat wicket, and it's very difficult to bowl on. So I think you just have to wait until we get to the next Test match and take it from there.
It must have been a boost, though, coming off the defeat from Melbourne and Australia scoring 500 in their first innings. If you'd have been rolled out for, say, 250
well,
here...
yeah, we would have been under a lot of pressure. We would have been set back, and things would be really difficult for us here. So actually, we feel quite happy. We're quite pleased that we have done so well, and we're just looking to go from strength to strength.
Were you surprised then at how the wicket played? Just after the toss on the first day, you told me you thought it was probably a good one-day wicket, but I'm wondering if you've reassessed
it. Well, it maintained... It didn't wear that much. It looked pretty much the same now as it did then, which is a bit surprising. I never expected it to be that way. I knew it would be flat, I knew it would turn, but I didn't think it would maintain its firmness for that long. It's just a really, really flat wicket, and I don't think too many bowlers would look forward to bowling on anything like that.
You spoke about Brian Lara, of course, but one player who you didn't mention, Junior Murray, making his Test debut. Comment there?
Yeah, Junior is a very talented cricketer. He's also a very positive one, and I'm sure pretty soon he'll start to produce. He'll do very well, and I think he's going to do very well for us in the future.
Are you disappointed the lack of help your bowlers have received out of the pitches produced so far in this series, and they've been very flat and unresponsive for your quick goals?
Well, we realise, I think that's going to be the trend. Things have changed here. We used to look forward to bowling on these wickets because they used to be, on the first day, you used to see a bit of grass, used to be green, used to be hard, used to be bouncy. But when you turn up these days, they're 4 days old. So it's something that we've got to cope with. We're not going to complain. We're going to go out there. We're going to play hard. We're here to play cricket, and regardless of what, we're going to go out there and bowl. Our guys are accustomed to these sort of conditions in India and Pakistan, same sort of wickets we get, and we've gone there, we have done well. So we're not complaining, we're just going to go out there and do what we know best.
In the context of the series, this is a good result for you because going to Adelaide, a pitch that was known for its draw results. I mean, there's a lot more drawn results.
That is so, but things can change, and obviously being behind, we're going to be looking to force for a win. So we're not gonna sit back and say, oh, it's a flat wicket, it's going to be a draw. We're going to be doing everything possible to try and create a win there.
And of course, Perth after that, a pitch that will obviously favour the quick bowlers.
Well, it used to again, but I'm afraid it's not going to be much different to this one. So that seems to be the trend these days. So we're just going to have to work really hard, extremely hard to win the series.
Looking back on the Test match in this wicket, though, I mean, there was a lot of people saying Test cricket needs to get crowds back.
Does a wicket like this really do much good for Test cricket when you see 1,000 runs scored? No result.
Well, even though people enjoyed seeing the batting, but I think also people like results. I think I'm not sure. I don't think that the groundsman deliberately prepare a wicket like this. I think you prepare a wicket that you'd want to last would be very good for 3 days, but after that, then it starts to wear or start to turn and start to do something, so you can have a result. So I don't know. I mean, it just depends on the quality of cricket, really. People want to see exciting cricket, and if they can do more results, then they'll be happy.
And a 2-day break you have now before the next one-dayer in Brisbane, is that sufficient for you to make the transition from the Test?
Not really, but that's... Wow!
Perhaps you can answer that one again for us.
Well, that is how things are these days. So you can't win, you just got to go on with it. You know, you've got to adjust, you've got to adapt and get on with the job, because that's how it is.
The third test at the SCG has ended in a draw, with Australia none for 117 in its second innings when play ceased at 5:30. Earlier today, the West Indies had fallen just 10 runs short of their highest ever score against Australia when they were dismissed for 606. Jimmy Adams was the only player to push on to a significant score today, remaining unbeaten on 77 when the innings was wrapped up. Unfortunately for the Windies, Carl Hooper again failed to get among the runs, beautifully bowled by Warne, who pitched a leg break outside the leg stump and flicked the off so marginally that there was initial uncertainty as to whether he'd indeed been bowled. Although Warne was the best of the bowlers, it was Merv Hughes who chipped in with 2 wickets today for the figures. Boone and Taylor were given invaluable time in the middle in late afternoon, Boone achieving the milestone of 5,000 test runs early on. So a match dominated by the pitch on which it was played almost as much as by Brian Lara's epic innings, an innings to restore the West Indies' flagging morale and give it hope and confidence of retaining the Frank Worrell Trophy. So the details of the final day, with the West Indies resuming their first innings at 5 for 488. Hooper was out for 21, Murray 11, Bishop 1, Ambrose 16, Walsh for no score. Adams remained not out 77. There were 22 extras. West Indies all out for 606. McDermott 1 for 119. Hughes 3 for 76. Matthews 2 for 169. Warne 1 for 116. Steve Waugh none for 43. Border none for 41. Mark Waugh 1 for 29. In its second innings, Australia 117 without loss. Boone not out 63. Taylor not out 46. 8 extras. Many bowlers used. Ambrose none for 10. Bishop none for 9. Walsh none for 13. Hooper none for 22. Simmons none for 9. Arthurton none for 14. Adams none for 29. Lara none for 4. And Richie Richardson bowled an over at the end. No wicket for 4. Australia 9 for 503 and none for 117. The West Indies 606. The third test has ended in a draw, and with 2 tests to play, Australia still leads the series 1-0. Tim Lane at the SCG for ABC Radio Sport.
Well, Brian, man of the match, it caps a fabulous match for you, doesn't it?
Yes, it's great. It's a great match for me. I think that it's a great match for the team also. You know, I think that we're getting our batting together. It was nice to see us get 600 runs, and the guys are looking forward to Adelaide and Perth for the remaining series.
You've had 24 hours now to reflect on your innings. Has it really sunk in yet?
Yeah, I think it has to. You know, it's a very busy schedule, and I think that you can't think too much about your last innings. You know, you have to go on there and start all over again. The one-day series is starting again, and you have to go on and try to get as much runs as possible.
Are your teammates and team management trying to keep your feet firmly on the ground? What's been the advice since the innings?
Well, I think that it's important that someone enjoy themselves. I think I've achieved a lot. Scoring 277 in my maiden 100. I think that I'm the sort of person that would love to score runs. It's important that you keep the confidence. You don't want to stifle anyone. They just scored 277. You don't want to give them too much problems or anything. So it's important to just go on from here and just keep scoring a lot of runs.
And good reaction from back home?
Yeah, it's very good reaction. A lot of facts, a lot of messages, a lot of congratulations, and I'm very thankful for that. People supporting me back at home.
Did you expect the media attention you've received the last 24 hours?
Well, not before the match, but getting a double century, I expected it. But, I'm hoping that, there'll be a lot more media attention with me. I love to score runs, so looking forward to it.
Not tired of it yet?
No. Now started, now got 500. Now I'm about to get 10,000.